What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 3VN. Chapter 51 Enel, the first Espada becomes the first god envoy. Advertise here. In the sky, Enel watched the indiscriminate fire of the marine warship below. The sound of gunfire fills the entire Eni's lobby. A bunch of guys in black suits, and a bunch of straw hat crew from Sky Island. And also, two tall giants. Which one is the target of the god's guidance? Enel frowned, looking down. A moment later, the mind network ability was activated, and the micro center of his body was scanned like a radar unscrupulously. In an instant, I found the familiar aura on Jabra's body. It was left by the gods. Just when he was about to look for it, his undisguised use of the hard net also attracted the attention of the Marines on the warship below. Several Marine vice admirals, including the flying squirrel, looked up at the same time and found Enel. Huo Shaoshan. Who is that person? Is he a pirate with a reward? Ghost Spider. Whoever he is, it's just bad luck for him to be here during Buster Call. After all, he is one of the representatives of the Marine Hawks, and the Ghost Spider is as tough as ever. He didn't care about the strength of Enel, who was hanging in the air. As long as it is within the scope of Eni's lobby, it must strictly follow the standards of Buster Call, and strive to obliterate every blade of grass. Ghost Spider. Wait, don't make a move yet. Only the cautious flying squirrel reminded not to make a move yet, intending to find out the identity of the opponent first. But apparently he spoke too late. The Ghost Spider leapt, and moonwalk rushed in front of Enel. The skies above Eni's lobby are not for a thief like you, die. All 8 sabers were unsheathed and cut towards Enel. But he didn't want Enel to disappear in front of him with a ringing sound, and when he reappeared, he was already behind the Ghost Spider. Despicable mortals, trying to attack the envoy of God, seek their own death. As he spoke, he placed one hand on the Ghost Spider's back. 80 million volts discharge. The incident happened too fast, and the Ghost Spider was inevitable, so it could only condense armament hockey on its body at this moment, and cast one of the 6 moves Iron Body. Take Enel's lead. But the Ghost Spider, who hastily accepted Enel's electric discharge, didn't feel so good. Although the injury was not serious, the paralysis effect of the thunder and lightning remained in his body, making him unable to move, and he could only fall towards the water surface. Up to now, the flying squirrel and others didn't care too much, and one by one they used moonwalk to support them. Huo Shaoshan caught the falling Ghost Spider, and the rest of them attacked Enel directly. Now that the shot has been made, it doesn't matter who the opponent is anymore. Tempest Kick. Fly Finger Pistol. ... Facing attacks from all directions, Enel was furious. These bastards attacked him out of nowhere. Did they think he was easy to bully? I am the messenger of God. You despicable mortals, die for me. Enraged, Enel pointed to the sky with one hand. 100 million volts, thunder. In the cloudless sky, several thunderbolts landed, slamming on the bodies of several vice admirals. The terrifying power directly overturned them. As this thunder fruit, damn. The flying squirrel that landed on the warship had a trace of bloodline flowing from the corner of its mouth, and looked at Enel annoyed. I didn't expect to meet such a difficult enemy by such a coincidence. The hearts of several other vice admirals are also complicated. But before they launched the second round of attacks, Enel's thunder struck again. Let you ignorant mortals experience the power bestowed by the gods. Wang Shu's flash, Kang Lei. Thunder and lightning roared at Enel's fingertips, and a faint blue light condensed, illuminating the entire sky. Luffy, CP9 and others who were about to escape from Eni's lobby in the distance also looked here in unison. Luffy. I really want to hear Big Ear Boy's voice. Zoro. Who is Big Ear Boy? Luffy. The Sky Island one. ... What is that? It's such a terrifying coercion. You can feel the terrifying power contained in it from such a long distance. Let's go. Jabra, I need an explanation when it's safe. Under the watchful eyes of many strong men, the Sero in Enel's hand flew. Seeing this, the flying squirrel hurriedly ordered, everyone abandon the ship immediately and land at Eni's lobby. The rest of the vice admirals immediately issued the same order. Hundreds of elite marine fighters jumped into the water like dumplings, desperately swimming towards the ruins of Eni's lobby. The stronger ones also used moonwalk without hesitation. But despite this, Enel's attack arrived. A pillar of fire soaring into the sky was ignited on a vast ocean, and the power of lightning wrapped in it caused heavy losses to the soldiers in the sea. Damn, who are you? The 5 vice admirals looked at the wreckage of the destroyed warship and asked with gritted teeth. Enel laughed out loud when he saw this. The anger of these bastards was the best punishment for them. I am the seed of the gods, the number 1 envoy. As he spoke, he revealed the 1 mark on his left waist. Chapter 52. 1.3 billion reward, Demon Enel. Advertise here. God. In the conference room at Naval Headquarters, Marineford, Sengoku looked grave. The expressions of the other people present were exactly the same, including Suru, Akainu, Kizaru, and all the marine generals. Many marine executives gathered together, but no one spoke. In the huge conference room, only the occasional sound of smoking a cigarette could be heard. After a long time, Sengoku looked at the flying squirrel and others who were slightly injured on one side. It seems that there is another tricky guy in this sea. Just one master under his command was able to calmly deal with the joint attack of 5 vice admirals, and even caused a lot of damage to marine. The mastermind behind this force is as powerful as Madara. I am afraid that another force comparable to the 4 emperors was born. And this is not the most troublesome. The most troublesome thing is that they actually act in the name of God. This is completely putting the world government on the opposite side, and the rhythm is endless. Who in this sea does not know that celestial dragons call themselves descendants of the Creator, and blood of the gods? Now these people not only claim to be gods, but the top masters under their command even call themselves god envoys. This is to rub the faces of celestial dragons on the ground. Especially at this critical moment, when Marine is about to declare war on Whitebeard. Kawain, one person is fighting against the 5 vice admirals in the headquarters. This guy named Enel is very strong. Kizaru sat there in a rare manner, propping his head on one hand and looking at the photo of Enel in front of him. Akainu, who was sitting across from him, snorted dissatisfiedly, HMPH. Arrogant pirate, let me arrest this bastard myself. He looked at Marshal Sengoku at the top, expressing his desire to block it himself. Sengoku didn't speak, just bowed his head in thought. Seeing that he was silent, the chief of staff he said, the most urgent thing now is to find out which faction this person comes from and what their purpose is. When she opened her mouth, she scanned the past with her eyes, observing the expressions of everyone present. Seeing that everyone had no clue, he turned his attention to the flying squirrel and the others. Here are just a few of you who have had contact with him, let's talk about your views. No one of the flying squirrels looked at each other, and finally Huo Shaoshan stood up. According to our judgment, he is very likely to be a Logia Thunder Fruit capable user. In addition to the highly developed fruit ability, he is also physically strong, and possesses top-level observation haki. Quote. Where's armament haki? Huo Shaoshan was slightly stunned, and then replied, we haven't seen him use the armed color, but considering his strength, the armed color should not be weak. After listening to his words, there was silence in the conference room. Even Akainu, who had just volunteered to play, couldn't help but look serious. Sengoku tapped the table with his fingers, making a knocking sound of, do, took a deep breath and said, highly developed thunder fruit ability, strong physique, and top-level knowledge. Plus armament haki whose level is unknown. He reported all these abilities. Everyone was astonished to find that the sum of all of these was almost the same as the 2 admirals present. There are no clues, it's like jumping out of thin air. Thinking of this, Sengoku couldn't help but get a headache, and finally had to put the matter aside. After all, the main content of this meeting is to discuss the execution of Fire Fist Ace and the action plan for the Whitebeard pirates. Send out the reward order first, the reward will be set at 1.3 billion. 1.3 billion. Not long after the reward order was issued, countless people in the entire sea held the latest issue of the reward order and couldn't believe their eyes. Unexpectedly, someone can reach such a high level by offering a reward for the first time. You must know that there are only so many emperor mates in the 4 emperors regiment. Even Katakuri in the Big Mom Pirates has only 1.057 billion, which is more than 200 million lower than him. Just when people all over the world are discussing the first demon, Enel. Far away on the channel of New World, a giant ship with the bow of a blue whale is sailing on the sea. It is the car of Whitebeard Edward Newgate, the strongest man in the world, the Moby Dick. Look, Dad, this is the latest reward offered today. The captain of the first team, Marco, ran over with a pineapple-like hairstyle. In the middle of the deck, Whitebeard looked at him with a needle stuck in his body. Marco, you are the captain of the first team, don't always make a fuss. Yes, Dad, Marco agreed with a chuckle, but continued, Dad, you should take a look at this first. Whitebeard accepted the reward order suspiciously, and glanced up and down. Gee lala, the kid now is really capable. I saw that Enel's reward order clearly read. Bounty. 1.3 billion, life or death. Attack on Eni's lobby, causing a large number of marine casualties and injuring several marine generals. Suspected to be Logia Thunder Fruit capable, powerful and brutal. Chapter 53. Garp and Red Hair, hostage swap. Advertise here. Just when Enel's name spread across the sea. As his old opponent, Straw Hat Luffy is now facing the biggest crisis since going to sea. Grandfather. Luffy held the bag that was punched out on his head, and cried out in pain. And the partner behind him was also surprised when he heard his name, and his eyes glanced back and forth between Luffy and the person who came. Hey, did you just hear that? Luffy calls him Grandpa. You weren't the only one who heard it. Robin looked at the old sea soldier who appeared out of nowhere. Marine hero Vice Admiral Garp, I didn't expect Luffy to have such a background. In the subsequent chat, everyone not only learned that Luffy's grandfather is the marine hero Garp, but also that his father is the #1 criminal of the world government, the Revolutionary Dragon. Not only them, even the marine soldiers who came with Garp were shocked and speechless after hearing the news. In the subsequent conversation, Garp also expressed that he had no intention of embarrassing Robin. Son of the devil, the old man has no interest in bullying little girls. While Robin expressed his gratitude upon hearing the words, he couldn't help showing a tangled look on his face. May I ask Vice Admiral Garp, about Aizen you? She asked hesitantly, obviously still struggling with Aizen. Regarding her doubts, Garp held his nostrils and thought for a while. Oh, that kid. I remember a telegram from the headquarters before, he has been promoted to Vice Admiral, and I am on the same level as the old man. Aizen boy is talented, but unfortunately some rely too much on the fruit ability, otherwise the upper limit will be higher. Garp talked about it, but it wasn't what Robin wanted to know. It's just that as a wanted person, it's rare to be mercilessly let go by his subordinates. It's just too clueless. But her inquiry also aroused the interest of others. You must know that since going to sea, apart from feeling powerless when facing Admiral Aokiji, the only thing left is that he suffered a big loss at the hands of Aizen when he was in Sky Island, and was wiped out. Thinking about it now, at that time, the opponent's mercy was probably also largely due to the marine hero in front of him. Luffy's grandpa. Grandpa, is that guy named Aizen as good as you? When Luffy heard that Aizen was also Vice Admiral, just like his grandfather, then he tilted his head, thinking not too well. Asshole Marine is equal to Vice Admiral, and Grandpa is equal to Vice Admiral, so Asshole Marine is equal to Grandpa. Grandpa equals Asshole Marine too. Then thinking of the scene of being beaten up by his grandfather when he was a child, his eyes suddenly opened, and he nodded affirmatively. That's right, Grandpa is an asshole too. Unexpectedly, just as this thought flashed through his mind, a huge iron fist hit him on the head. Boom. Grandpa is the best, that kid Aizen is still young. And don't think I don't know what you're thinking, stupid grandson. Grandfather. Another round of joyful interaction between grandparents and grandchildren. Zoro and Sanji looked at each other with a slightly dignified expression. Again, obviously Luffy is rubber, the last thing he fears is blunt blows. But Aizen, Garp, and then Admiral Aokiji could beat him with bare hands. Is this a special trick inside Marine? After just learning the 6 styles of CP9, they also have a new round of understanding of this sea. But the field of vision is still small and can only be explored through guesswork. After a lot of fighting, Garp finally let go of his great-grandson who was beaten up with a black nose and a swollen face. That kid Aizen is Sengoku's disciple. He has already served as the Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters at a young age, and he has a very good reputation. He is a model existence both within the Marine and in the hearts of ordinary people. I don't know how many times Sengoku has shown off before me. Hearing it overtly and secretly made my head dizzy. Garp didn't care at first, but he became envious as he talked. Until the end, when he looked at the grandson who became a pirate in front of him, he became more and more angry. Damn it, it's all because of that bastard Redhead, if he hadn't led you to the wrong path of pirates. You must be a strong marine fighter now, and it's Sengoku's turn to show off in front of me. I heard again the rhetoric that my grandfather often nagged when I was young. Luffy yelled unconvinced. I'm the man who wants to be the One Piece. One Piece. Ha ha ha, just you. Garp laughed. But soon the expression on his face darkened. You idiot grandson, do you know what One Piece means? The freest man in the world. Just when the grandparents were about to quarrel again, Nami, who had been listening for a long time, couldn't help being confused. Luffy's grandfather is Marine, he was led to the pirate road by the pirate red-haired Shanks. Yuta, the daughter of the pirate red-haired Shanks, joined Marine. What is this all about? Quote. Hearing her words, Chopper's little brain had an idea. As this called hostage exchange. Chapter 54 Jabra Brain Supplement. Celestial Dragon's Secret Mission. Advertise here. Ha ha ha. Red hair, you have today too. That brat Aizen is really amazing. After Garp learned of Yuta's identity, the resentment in his heart also disappeared. What was replaced was actually a feeling of avenging a big revenge. I didn't take it seriously before Aizen persuaded the pirates to be good, but now it seems that I have to find an opportunity to ask the kid for advice. Looking at the time above, he can also persuade his grandson to come back. What's so good about being a pirate? When the Marine soldiers who accompanied him heard the news, the young Marine soldiers seemed to hear the sound of heartbreak. Some even cried bitterly on the spot. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could Major Yuta be the red-haired daughter of the 4 emperors? Illusion, it must be an illusion. The noisy Garp was upset. Fortunately, he didn't forget to warn. Just pretend you didn't hear what happened today, and don't tell it. Yes, the soldiers replied weakly. They were obviously devastated by the news. And in San Pobla Island, Bluno, who originally used the door fruit ability to lead everyone to escape, is now covered in bruises. The rest of the CP9 members weren't much better off. First, he experienced a big battle with Straw Hat Crew, and then he was locked by Buster Call and fled in embarrassment. He didn't expect that there would be people chasing him here. Who are you? We haven't offended you, have we? Kaku knelt down on one knee, leaning on a sword in one hand to support his body and asked. Now that Lu Chi was seriously injured and comatose, he was the strongest, and the burden of facing the powerful enemy naturally fell on him. And standing opposite him is Enel with a bounty of 1.3 billion Baileys. Mortal, I'm not interested in you, I'm here to find him. Saying that, Enel pointed to Jabra. Everyone who got his answer glared at Jabra, and everyone's eyes wanted to eat him alive. Jabra, how many things have you done without telling us? Fukuro moved closer to Jabra and said in a bad tone. Looking at the angry eyes of the crowd, Jabra's scalp was numb and he was at a loss. He really doesn't know what happened. Facing his companion's questioning, Jabra could only bite the bullet and ask, I've never met your excellency, why are you looking for me? Because you have God's guidance on you, Enel said with a serious face. But it made the members of CP9 puzzled. God, did he mean the celestial dragons? But the next moment, Enel's words made Jabra's heart beat endlessly. I need you to take me to New World, a place called Pawapoga Island. Pawapoga Island, what's up with this place? Jabra's mood changed sharply at this moment, and he was no stranger to this place as he had just brought news to Aizen in the front end. Especially after Aizen's weird request for a knife reward, he was even more impressed with that mission. Could it be that person did all of this? Sweat dripped from Jabra's forehead, and he seemed restless. The other members of CP9 have far more insight than ordinary people. As intelligence officers and killers, they quickly noticed the abnormality in Jabra. Jabra, what's going on? Kaku urged impatiently. It's just that Jabra was thinking a lot in his head at this moment, and didn't listen to his question at all. Aizen Vice Admiral is closely related to celestial dragons. And this master with a big earlobe also said God's guidance. Could it be that all these nobles who are celestial dragons ordered privately? Just let Aizen Vice Admiral use his hand to kill Spandam. Jabra's brain, which is not good at stratagems, was spinning rapidly at this moment, and finally came to such a conclusion. Everything is arranged by celestial dragons. That being the case, just obey orders. Anyway, the CP is originally serving the celestial dragons and the world government. After thinking through these, his heart became much more carefree. Looking at Kaku, Khalifa and others is not as unreasonable as before. He glanced at the crowd confidently, ignoring their doubts. Going straight to Enel. I already understand what the Lord means, and I am willing to go with the Lord for the mission. Seeing this, Enel nodded, and a satisfied expression appeared on his murderous face. Mortal, it is your honor to serve God. Yes, Jabra didn't feel uncomfortable, or even proud. Among the strong players in CP9, he can only be ranked in the top 3. He did not expect such a confidential task to fall on his head. Now, after the task is completed, let's see how Lucci and Kaku will still play prestige in front of him. Before leaving, Jabra faced doubts from other CP9 people. Still couldn't help but whispered, this is the secret mission of Master Celestial Dragons, you believe me. Then, under their dubious eyes, Enel disappeared from their field of vision. Chapter 55 Visiting Zephyr. Advertise here. In the office's sanatorium at Naval Headquarters. Aizen, who successfully sent Ace to impel down and returned, walked down the corridor of the nursing home with a bouquet of flowers in his hand. When the passing nurses saw him coming, they nervously adjusted their makeup, trying to show their best side. Aizen Vice Admiral, are you also here to see Zephyr's chief instructor today? Can't Mr. Aizen come to see me? Don't be narcissistic. Vice Admiral is holding a sunflower in his hand, he must be here to see the chief instructor. The girls chattered. Many of them were enthusiastic and bold, and bluntly said that they wanted to date Aizen. After all, in their eyes, Aizen is young, promising and powerful. He is also a marshal's disciple and has a bright future. Not to mention that he is gentle and kind, and he is simply a model of an ideal partner. There were even rumors that many female officers in the headquarters favored him. In this regard, Aizen didn't say much, just showed that gentle smile as always. Surrounded by many young girls, they came to an independent courtyard behind the nursing home. This is the recuperation room exclusively for the former Admiral Zephyr. Excuse me, is Teacher Zephyr there? Aizen knocked lightly on the courtyard gate. There was no response, but the door was opened after a while, and it was a girl with sea blue long hair who opened the door. Ain, long time no see. Senior Aizen, long time no see. The two greeted briefly, and Ain led Aizen in. After entering the yard, Aizen saw all kinds of equipment scattered everywhere in the middle of the yard. The purple-haired Zephyr just finished a round of exercise and dropped the barbell in his hand to the ground. As soon as I heard the voices of many little girls outside, I knew it was your kid. Zephyr said, pretending to be relaxed. Only between his brows, Aizen still found a trace of sadness and loneliness. Sure enough, the shock of that year has always been deeply pressed in his heart, and he refused to give up exercising even if his arm was severely injured. Longing for one day to be able to improve his strength to avenge the hatred of the year. Teacher, you are joking. Aizen said modestly, and handed over the flowers in his hand. Zephyr didn't refuse, and took it. Sunflower. It represents positivity, enthusiasm, and vitality. His voice was soothing, and there was nothing wrong with it. It's just that the next moment, the whole person is like a raging lion. A majestic aura exudes, enveloping towards Aizen. Teacher. Ain worried. Zephyr ignored it, looking at Aizen with a threatening gaze. What do you mean by sending me this? Even you think I'm old and sick? Facing Zephyr's questioning, Aizen remained calm. In his opinion, this kind of momentum is strong on the outside and capable on the inside, and the lion is already getting old. Mr. Zephyr, I think you have misunderstood me. I did not come today to ridicule you. Hearing his words, Zephyr's momentum dropped slightly. Since the attack on him, his wife and children have died, and his students have died tragically. The mental state of the whole person becomes extremely unstable, or in other words, becomes extremely sensitive on certain things. Like now. Aizen took out an appointment letter from the inside pocket of his clothes and handed it to Zephyr. Zephyr just glanced from above, and was firmly attracted. His hands couldn't help trembling, and he grabbed the piece of paper. Impossible, impossible, how could this happen, how could they do this? After losing control briefly, he quickly regained control of his emotions. Shaking his head and chuckling, he made a relaxed gesture. Aizen boy, your joke is not funny, how is it possible? No matter how stupid the 5 elders are, they can't use him to deal with Whitebeard, right? He has always regarded himself as the son of Whitebeard. How could he openly stand on the side of the world government against his father? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Zephyr denied the news brought by Aizen, and kept saying it was impossible. But when he saw the seriousness on Aizen's face, he couldn't help bowing his head and fell silent. Seeing the appearance of the respected teacher, Ain and Bins couldn't help looking at him worriedly. Teacher. Not knowing how to comfort them, they could only turn their attention to Aizen, hoping that he, who was also a student of teacher Zephyr, could say some comforting words to calm the teacher down. But Aizen, who sensed their intentions, was unmoved and just looked at Zephyr quietly. After a long time, Zephyr asked in a lonely voice, why? Edward Weevil, do you think he is really that man's son? Aizen said in a calm voice. Zephyr was silent. This is just a lie woven by his mother, Miss Ba Jin. He is just a puppet in the hands of this woman. He can do whatever he wants with just a random reason. And for Miss Ba Jin, money, power, honor, tyranny, catharsis. Her greed makes the world government have 10,000 ways to reach a cooperation with her. Chapter 56. Do you want revenge? Teacher Zephyr. Advertise here. Just 2 days ago, Aizen had just returned to Marineford and learned of Marine's plan of action against the Whitebeard pirates. The project named Summit War. And in just 2 days, under his operation, the Shichibukai who was contacted and asked to play was none other than Hexia Jinbei. The Whitebeard pirates provide shelter for the Fishmen Island, and this old man will not attack them. Not surprisingly, Jinbei's answer was this way. In order to prevent him from revealing the news of the operation, it is also used as a punishment for his disobedience. Marine arrested him on the spot and sent him to Impel down together. In this way, Shichibukai has one more vacancy. In order to increase the odds of winning the battle with the Whitebeard pirates. A strong foreign aid is also essential. World government also quickly started a new round of screening, and with the help of some people, it locked the target on Whitebeard too, Edward Weevil. As for what kind of deal world government has with his mother, Miss Bajin, it's unknown. Aizen calmly told Zephyr everything he knows. Ain and Bins in the yard only had worries in their eyes. They don't understand why the world government would do this, and why they would choose that guy Whitebeard too. But as the original survivors, they also know that this decision of the world government also represents a complete abandonment of Zephyr. Damn it, those bastards from the world government, what the hell are they trying to do? Isn't the teacher's achievements and devotion for so many years not as good as that damned pirate? Why is it him? Bin said angrily, but tears were streaming down his face. In next to him was also tearful. This choice of world government is tantamount to abandoning Zephyr. Even Zephyr himself never imagined that one day he would stand in the same camp as the enemy. Nothing hurt him more than this. But Zephyr, who was the center of the topic at the moment, was surprisingly calm. He slowly walked to the side stone table, picked up a cigar, and took a deep puff after lighting it. So, what are you going to tell me about this? Although he tried his best to hide his turbulent heart, the slight trembling between his lips and teeth betrayed him. Zephyr did not doubt the authenticity of this news, given his knowledge of the world government. Would really do such a thing? Aizen looked at him in a dazed state, sharpness burst out from his gentle eyes. Do you want revenge, Mr. Zephyr? His words stopped Zephyr's smoking hand, and he raised his head to look at him. His eyes seemed to say, are you serious? Again. Ain and the others also looked at Aizen in disbelief. Knowing the determination of the world government, he still said such a thing. What is he trying to do? Under the watchful eyes of several people, Aizen said, I am the Vice Admiral of the headquarters of Edward Weevil who recruited this time. What do you want to do? Regardless of whether you are not strong enough to fight against him, even if you can defeat him. Your behavior like this is also against the determination of the world government. Do you know the consequences? Zephyr fixed his eyes firmly on him. His eyes were sharp, as if trying to see through his heart. But Aizen did not rush, put all the information he had on the stone table in front of Zephyr, turned around and was about to leave. He turned his back to several people and walked towards the door. In this dying world, even justice has become worthless. The world needs a new order, and evil must pay its due price. Teacher Zephyr, if you are ready, come to me. Aizen's words reveal a lot. Almost unabashedly indicting the darkness of the world government. It also shows his certain attitude and purpose. Wait, speak clearly to me. After being dazed for a moment, Zephyr also reacted immediately, and yelled at Aizen, who hadn't walked out of the courtyard. Seeing that Aizen's footsteps did not stop, he eagerly chose to shoot immediately, wanting to force Aizen to stay to explain. Shave. Appearing in front of Aizen in an instant, he was about to grab his collar. When Setsuna touched his palm, he realized that what he saw was an illusion, not an entity. Looking back, there is no sign of Aizen in the yard, only the thick stack of documents lying quietly on the stone table. Even I can't detect his vision. Zephyr lowered his head, surrounded by frustration and loneliness for a moment. Teacher, don't listen to his nonsense, you now. Before Binz finished speaking, Zephyr raised his hand to stop him. Then leisurely walked to the stone table and picked up the materials. You all go out, I want to calm down. The two looked at each other, feeling a little worried about his condition. But in the end, under the gaze of Zephyr, he retreated. Chapter 57 Instigating Zephyr. Advertise here. Wait until the two leave. Zephyr breathed a sigh of relief. I haven't seen you for so long, and I don't know how your hockey practice is. I hope you don't rely too much on the fruit ability, and don't take the crooked path like Pelusalino. Sure enough, I still can't hide it from the teacher. The figure of Aizen who left just now reappeared, leaning against the wall not far away. Zephyr shook his head and said, my strength has regressed too much. I can perceive your phantom not because of observation hockey, but because of my understanding of you. Aizen smiled a little apologetically when he heard the words. I see, the students underestimated you. Zephyr waved his hand. I underestimated you. His tone was full of emotion. He never thought that the refined and gentle boy back then would not only have his own justice, but would also embark on the direction of opening up a new path. Have you joined the Dragon's Revolutionary Army? After learning about Aizen's thoughts, Zephyr thought he was joining the Dragon's Revolutionary Army. After all, there are only such a group of people in this world who dare to shout that slogan head on. If he hadn't joined them, Zephyr really couldn't figure out where Aizen had the confidence to say these words. But Aizen gave him an unexpected answer at this time. Why can't I create a new force myself? New forces. Zephyr looked Aizen up and down, as if meeting him for the first time. Confident, mysterious and hard-edged, very different from the easygoing past. Considering Aizen's prestige among Marines and civilians, he seems to understand something. It seems that after so many years, he has made a lot of preparations. Could it be that he still harbors resentment in his heart for what the world government did to Ohara back then? Yes, how can such hatred be forgotten? Thinking of this, Zephyr showed bitterness. Even he himself, the original Marine Admiral, was also hated, but was abandoned and betrayed by the world government. Not to mention the child who was only 10 years old back then. At this moment, he actually had the feeling of sympathy with Aizen, and he also felt that Aizen's decision was quite reasonable. You tell me this now, do you want to invite me to join you? After all, he is a veteran who has been on the front line of the war for many years, and he speaks quickly when he is angry. After roughly confirming Aizen's purpose, Zephyr asked bluntly. And Aizen didn't hide it. Indeed. So, this news is your gift to me. Zephyr tapped his fingers against the stack of documents on the stone table. In his opinion, it was already a bold thing for him to be able to send the news of this disability that should not have been revealed to him. But what Aizen said next surprised him. Of course not. If this kind of thing can be given as a meeting gift, it would be too rude. Oh, under Zephyr's suspicious gaze, Aizen took out another golden braid, which caught his attention instantly. Under that period of unforgettable hatred, how could he not recognize it? This is the hair of his nemesis, the new Shichibukai that the world government is trying to recruit, Edward Weevil. This, you killed him. Zephyr held the whip in his hand, and asked in a trembling voice. Aizen shook his head. If you kill him, then the gift to you will be too light. You need to take his life yourself. Zephyr looked agitated at what he said. But soon he calmed down again, looking at his almost disabled arm and remained silent. Once he was defeated by Whitebeard too, so he failed to keep those students. Now that his combat strength has been greatly reduced, he is probably not his opponent. Even if it is left to him to do it himself, he does not have that ability. Is it possible to use someone else's hand to make him powerless to resist, and then kill him? The euphoria that has just risen fades away like a tide. Seeing that he didn't speak, Aizen just looked straight at his right hand and knew what he was thinking. So he said, the corruption of the world government has shamed the justice of Marine. Will the teacher who has a deep understanding of this really want to stay? Seeing the wavering on Zephyr's face, Aizen added fuel to the fire with a chuckle. Leave the Marine and make justice your own way. It's not you who betrayed justice, but the world government betrayed you, teacher. ... His words kept pounding Zephyr's brain. Hatred, betrayal, disappointment. Intertwined together for a while. Looking at the section of the enemy's hair in his hand, Zephyr finally agreed to Aizen's invitation. I agree, Zephyr said with a serious face, but if I find that your organization is not righteous, I will punish you with my own hands. After he finished speaking, he glanced at Aizen, thinking of Aizen's performance over the years. I am still pleased to add. Don't put too much pressure on me, since I have chosen to believe in you, you can do it boldly. Thanks for your trust. After that, The two talked about many details, knowing that Aizen really left after 2 hours. And while his figure disappeared in front of Zephyr. Far away in the office of the Naval Headquarters building, there is actually an Aizen. This is his real body. Aizen stood at the window looking at the waves in the distance, with a slight smile on his face. Teacher Zephyr, you didn't choose me, but I chose you. It seems that you still don't understand me. Chapter 58 Self-Defeating Sengoku, Moria meets Luffy. Advertise here. In the next few days, the ex-Admiral Zephyr, who had been living in convalescence, reappeared uncharacteristically in everyone's field of vision. And took the initiative to run to Sengoku's office, saying that he would also contribute this time. Sengoku, this time will be the end of Whitebeard, please give me this chance too. Sengoku looked at Zephyr with a lonely face and earnest voice, and couldn't bear it in his heart. But as Martial Marine, despite the resistance in my heart. But he couldn't refuse the Five Elders' decision, and at the same time, he couldn't bear to let go of this great opportunity to fight against the arrogance of the pirates. For this reason, he could only wrong this old friend and accepted the order of the world government to recruit Whitebeard II as the new 7 warlords of the sea to fill the vacancy in Jinbei. Now the old friend had asked to join in this fight. Stand with your enemies. Is it justice? Then what? This made Sengoku, known as the resourceful general, unable to guess for a while what he wanted to do. Zephyr, what you have to do now is self-cultivation. This is a war, so don't be arrogant. Sengoku persuaded with some headache. It's just the complicated expression on his face and the unbearable look in his eyes, which made Zephyr furious. No matter how beautiful the words are, they can't hide the fact that world government and marine are doing. Obviously he has been regarded as an abandoned son, but he still has to put on an appearance of, I am doing it for your own good, you need to cultivate and can't work hard. Sure enough, what Aizen said earlier was correct. The betrayal that can be seen is not terrible, the real horror is the betrayal that cannot be seen. Sengoku, you don't need to say any more. Rather than letting me die of old age in a nursing home, I would rather die on the battlefield. If I can have that guy from Newgate with me, I won't be lonely on the road to hell. Zephyr said in a deep voice, but made Sengoku stand there blankly, without replying for a long time. It took a long time to speak with difficulty. Zephyr, you. Zephyr waved his hand, but didn't let him continue. I've made up my mind, so don't say any more. During this period of time, I will go to sea to wipe out the pirates and get back to my best condition as soon as possible. Said and left without looking back, not giving Marshal Sengoku a chance to refuse. And he didn't even look at Kizaru at the side from the beginning to the end. After Zephyr left, Kizaru lazily stretched his waist. Mr. Zephyr is really a model soldier. It's amazing that he still wants to fight in this situation. However, it's really novel to hear the word, extermination, from Teacher Zephyr, who never kills indiscriminately. Kizaru said intentionally or unintentionally, but made Sengoku silent. Zephyr was called, Don't Kill Admiral, back then, and it has changed so much now. Hate can really change a person. On the day Zephyr left Sengoku's office, he left with a fleet. In addition to his confidants Ain, Bins and Shuzo, there is another person in the company. That is Aizen. He was specially sent by Sengoku when he received news that Zephyr was going to sea. It's called assistance, but it's actually surveillance. As a disciple I am proud of, I naturally have incomparable trust. He sent Aizen with him just to prevent Zephyr from doing anything out of the ordinary. It's just that he didn't know that when Aizen boarded the Zephyr warship. The two looked at each other but laughed. That old boy Sengoku is really self-defeating. Originally, Aizen didn't plan to accompany Zephyr, but he didn't want Sengoku's arrangement, so he let them meet. But they went to sea in the name of exterminating pirates, but their real destination was Moria's base camp, the terrifying sailing ship of the Three Deceits. On the other side of the scary Three Tricks sailing ship. After Lafitte hit Sero, the entire island looked extremely dilapidated, and it would not be an exaggeration to describe it as devastated. The area of the entire island was directly reduced by 1/3. It is still under reconstruction until now. At this time, Moria was leading the 3 surviving monsters, Perona, Asabram, and Hobuk, and they finally got to see them. The group that Master Aizen specifically explained. The Straw Hats. Boy, what are you doing on my island? Moria's face was cold, her eyes swept over Luffy and the others. I'm here to take back Brook's shadow. Luffy was as loud as ever, yelling at Moria. Parola, who was standing behind Moria, showed disdain. It's really rude to shout at the master in our house. Upon hearing this, Luffy apologized in a daze. I'm sorry. Then he pressed one hand on the straw hat, with a firm attitude and firm eyes. I'm going to take back Brook's shadow, though. You. Perona wanted to say something, but was stopped by Moria. Little devil, you want to grab something from a pirate, do you know what that means? I will beat you. Luffy clenched his fists, his eyes were full of fighting spirit. In this case, let me see what you have that deserves your attention. Chapter 59. Robin's Suspicion, 3 Flaws. Advertise here. The tense fighting atmosphere unfolded between Luffy and others and Moria and the others. Without the disturbance from the zombies, both Luffy and Zoro maintained their best condition. And the Moria in front of them is no longer the original Moria. Just when the war between the two sides was about to break out. Careful Nami and Robin seemed to have discovered something extraordinary. Stare at the position of Moria's neck, where a, two, caught their attention. They won't forget that Enel had one on Sky Island back then. Same font, same color. Only the numbers are different. Enel has, 1. Remembering that Enel has already surrendered to Aizen, so is this Shichibukai in front of him. This discovery made their hair stand on end, and they immediately stopped Luffy and the others who were about to attack. Wait, Luffy. But it was too late. Luffy and others had already rushed in front of Moria. Rubber machine gun. Luffy took the lead, and countless punches struck. Behind him, Zoro, Sanji and others also followed closely. 3 swords style power cut. Devil wind kick. Frankie, the wind cannon. Faced with their attack, Moria just glanced away. Such an intense attack in front of his Arrancar steel skin made him unable to think of avoiding it. Forget it, let's play with them first. Moria pulled out the Zanpakuto from her waist, and slashed out casually. The powerful slash brought a wave of terror and instantly overturned Luffy and others. And when they landed, as a swordsman, Zoro alerted with his natural sensitivity to the sword, quickly get out of place. Everyone didn't know why, but out of trust in their partners, they all subconsciously followed suit. Just as their front feet left the spot and scattered towards the two sides, a black slash came from the ground. To be precise, it came from the shadow of the previous slash. What kind of weird sword technique is this? Zoro looked at the people who barely escaped, and couldn't help but said in a frightened voice. It's too despicable to sneak attack. Hearing these guys' ignorant remarks, Moria couldn't help but roll her eyes. What do you think a pirate is? Do you play house? It's normal to sneak attack or something. Besides, this uncle is not considered a sneak attack. Yingyinguo, haven't you heard of my ability? Innocent brat, after all, you are too weak, so weak that I can't even arouse my interest in fighting. Moria spread her hands, showing a helpless look. This sentence also greatly aroused the fighting spirit of Luffy and the others. Damn it, I can beat you right now. In fact, Luffy doesn't care if someone says he is weak, but he will never back down in the face of suffering. Since he was said to be too weak, he had to prove himself by defeating him head on. Just when he was about to strike again, Robin grabbed him. What's wrong, Robin? All eyes focused on Robin. Now that the battle is imminent, there is no room for neglect. Faced with everyone's doubts, Robin walked to the front and looked directly at Moria. What's your relationship with Aizen? Aizen. Hearing this name from Robin again, everyone couldn't help frowning. Is this Shichibukai also related to him? Suddenly a sense of frustration rose, and the fighting spirit that had just been condensed was extinguished as if a basin of cold water had been poured on it. Facing Robin's inquiry, Moria was also a little surprised. Sure enough, they knew adults. But thinking of Aizen's previous explanation, Moria straightened up and said in a cold voice, Aizen. Are you talking about Vice Admiral from Marine? As the 7 warlords of the sea appointed by the world government, it is not surprising that I know a few Marines. Quote. At first glance, there was nothing wrong with his answer. But it was precisely because of this that a huge flaw was exposed. This was also keenly noticed by Robin, and when Moria's voice fell, he retorted, No. You must be related to Aizen. This kind of certainty confused everyone who still didn't understand the situation, and even Zoro couldn't help frowning, as Robin too obsessed with that Aizen. Just when they were puzzled, Nami pointed to his neck and then to Moria. When they saw the two, they all showed sudden expressions. Now it seems that Robin is right. Moria, who is seated in Shichibukai, may have some unknown relationship with Aizen. Looking at the expressions on their faces, they looked like they had discovered the truth. Moria felt the pressure, and retorted forcefully. Joke, my grandpa Shichibukai, what does it have to do with a Marine Vice Admiral? 2 o'clock. Robin stretched out 2 fingers, and said decisively, You have 2 flaws. Moria was taken aback by this statement, but she still refused to admit it. If Master Aizen finds out about this, what if he blames him? Before he could continue to refute, Robin stretched out 2 fingers and slowly added another one. It's 3 o'clock, what the hell is your relationship with Aizen? Huh, then tell me, what are the 3 points? Chapter 60 The Straw Hat Crew at a Disadvantage. Advertise here. After I asked you about your relationship with Aizen, you seemed to give a reasonable explanation, but you didn't answer me directly about your relationship. Secondly, as a big pirate, you are actually explaining, such behavior itself is unreasonable. Quote. Robin counted Moria's opening just now and took a deep breath. And the last point, you are taking the trouble to refute my guess. If you really have nothing to do with him, you would not do this, nor should you react like this. Moria gritted her teeth lightly, as strong as he felt a bit of pressure in front of this woman at this moment. And he, who was not good at words, was only thinking about how to make Robin shut up. Enough, put away your boring guesses, woman. As he spoke, he waved his hand to Perona and the others beside him, saying that the best way to stop them now is to fight. Perona and the others also rushed forward knowingly. Look at my negative ghost. Boom, boom, warrior, it's time to work. Hobak yelled and dodged far away. Moments later, the zombie Shimotsuki Ryoma appeared, standing in front of Zoro holding the famous sword Chushui. Yo ho ho. No song san ding arrow tail slash. ... But I didn't want Moria's angry look, which further confirmed Robin's conjecture. Facing the attack of the three monsters, everyone also shot one after another. After a few simple encounters, the respective opponents were distinguished. Brook and Zoro fight zombie Ryoma. Absalomen went straight to Usopp, Frankie and others. It wasn't that he didn't want to attack Nami Robin, but he didn't dare to be tempted after Moria specifically explained it. As for Nami, Robin, and the chopper with the spare ration, they have been captured by Perona's negative ghost at this moment. Negatively lying on the ground, full of frustration, and kept repeating the same words in his mouth. I don't deserve to be your partner. I'm sorry. I'm guilty. I'm a money-grubbing woman. As a civet cat, I really failed. This battle has just begun, and it turned out to be overwhelming. Even Zoro and Brook teamed up against Ryoma over there. It was very difficult, and they were faintly at a disadvantage. Hey, Brook, why is this guy's moves the same as yours? Zoro swung a slash and yelled at the embarrassed Brook over there. At this moment, Brook staggered and stood up with difficulty. My shadow is on him. Dawn Song Aurora burst. Ryoma's attack continued. The pressure on the two is also increasing. On the other side of the battlefield, Luffy watched his teammates lose one after another, and said to Sanji next to him, Sanji, leave this to me, you can go to other people. Sanji, who wanted to fight the enemy together with Luffy, nodded solemnly after hearing this. Apparently his partners were not optimistic about the fight, which made him very worried. After he left, only Moria and Luffy remained. Looking at the kid in front of him who sent his helper away, Moria couldn't help but let out a cold snort. HMPH, kid. Do you think you can defeat me by yourself? Certainly. Overestimating one's abilities. Seeing the firmness on Luffy's face, Moria couldn't help but sneer. Just because you want to win me. 100 years too early. Saying that, Moria swung Zanpakuto in her hand, and a dark purple slash flew out. After Luffy barely dodged, they scattered strangely. Like bats in midair, small slashes were formed and rushed towards Luffy. Shadow slash dance of bats. In an instant, dense wounds were cut on Luffy's rubber body. The whole person seemed to have been soaked in a pool of blood. Luffy, Zoro and the others, who still had enough strength, cast their eyes worriedly, but were soon overwhelmed by the enemies in front of them. When the seriously injured Luffy was about to fall to the ground, the shadow under Moria's feet twisted in an extremely fast manner, forming a spike that pointed straight at the falling Luffy. Shadow Horn Lance Ground Spike. A spike protruded from the ground beneath Luffy, ready to pierce it. Just at this critical moment, Frankie shot Luffy away and landed on the open space next to him. Dodged the blow. Luffy, cheer up. Hearing his partner's shout, Luffy stood up again, with one hand in his mouth, and the steam began to rise from his body. The whole body has a pink appearance. Second gear. Transformation. Seeing his transformation, Moria, who was originally bored, became a little interested. Speaking of which, I can do this kind of move too. As he spoke, he stroked the Zanpakuto in his hand, and let out a laugh. Hehehehe. I really want to try it. But it's too wasteful to use it on a weak person like you, so forget it. At this moment, a black shadow fell from the sky and landed between the two of them, raising a large cloud of dust. A tall figure appeared in it. Where would you like to go if you were traveling? Moria. Chapter 61. Tyrant Bear's Means. Advertise here. Where would you like to go if you were traveling? Moria. Bartholomew Bear appears here holding a Bible. And when everyone saw his figure clearly, they couldn't help feeling a little desperate. Another 7 warlords of the sea. Seeing the sudden appearance of the bear, Moria frowned. Bear, what do you mean by running into my territory like this? Bear looked Moria up and down first. A tall and powerful body with solid muscles. This is too different from the gecko Moria in his impression. But these are not important things in his eyes. All he has to do now is stop the fight. Gecko Moria, if you were to travel, where would you like to go? He continued. But Moria obviously didn't have the interest to respond to his inexplicable words. Instead, he looked unhappy. Bear, I'm not interested in talking nonsense with you. If you want to travel, go somewhere else, and don't run to me to get in the way. Moria's rude words did not exceed Shang's expectations, but his tough attitude surprised Shang. If this is the case, I'm afraid he will have to spend a lot of time. After all, Luffy and the others behind him have no chance of winning no matter how they look at it. In this case, they can only find a way to take the opportunity to drive them away. Shang's face was still expressionless, but countless thoughts had already flashed through his mind. Moria, the world government launched a Shichibukai meeting in Marine. This time it is a mandatory recruitment. I hope you will come with me. His words made Moria snort. A good Shichibukai is actually at Marine's place, acting like a dog. But since it was a compulsory recruitment, Moria naturally wanted to save face. After all of this is related to Master Aizen's order, and he must participate. It's just that he doesn't like Shang's tone of voice, and he's busy right now. Bear, don't you see that I'm busy? When I clean them up, I'll follow you. Moria looked at Luffy over there, and said in a bad tone. And Shang's attitude is also very tough. I said, I hope you will come with me, right now. When you're done. By the time you finish your work, my young master will be cold. After hearing what he said, Moria didn't say anything, but Luffy didn't like it first. Hey, you guy in the bear hat. Moria is up to me. Straw Hat Luffy, you are no match for him, it's better to leave now, so as to save a little life. Luffy's rude bear didn't care, and instead let them go with a contemptuous tone. But his kindness obviously won't be accepted. The fighting spirit in Luffy's eyes remained undiminished. I want to defeat him and take back Brook's shadow. As he spoke, he looked at the zombie Ryoma over there. As that's so. Hearing this, the bear understood the key. It turns out that a companion who wanted to recruit was kidnapped by Moria. If so, it would be much simpler. Watching the conversation between the two of them back and forth, plus Shang's almost threatening words. Shang, if you are sensible, get out of here now. A faint light flickered on Zanpakuto, and a huge Reiatsu was released, covering the audience instantly. Terrible momentum and coercion poured on everyone, causing extremely strong pressure. Okay, it's so heavy, what's going on here? For a while, Nami and Usopp, who were weaker, had difficulty even standing, and fell to the ground one by one out of breath. Others, including Luffy, were just struggling, unable to resist at all. Only the mighty bear can remain calm. But that was only physical, and the shock in his heart at this moment was not at all smaller than that of others. On the contrary, it is heavier. Compared with Luffy and others who only know her strength but not the depth of her strength, based on what Shang knows about Moria, this is a powerful strength that he should not have. In the face of such strength, even he couldn't help but feel hesitant. If possible, he didn't want to fight against such a Moria. But Luffy is still by his side, so he can't choose. It seems Moria, are you going to disobey? Disobedience. Don't take off such a big hat. Shang, I should ask you carefully, what exactly do you want to do? Moria couldn't bear it any longer, and after a roar, she slashed straight for the bear's face. Facing his slash, Shang slowly raised his right hand. A claw-shaped transparent ball appeared in the palm, colliding with Moria's slash. Rebounding it in an instant, the slash went straight to Moria. And just in the gap after this round of fighting, the bear's figure turned sharply and appeared in front of Luffy and the others, knocking them out one by one. Under his palm, the Straw Hat crew disappeared from the same place, and even Shimotsuki Ryoma, who was implanted with Brook's shadow, disappeared together. I have cleaned up your enemies for you, now come with me. Shang talked to himself, but his actions obviously made Moria extremely unhappy. Moria looked at him with a cold face, and asked in a deep voice. Bear, do you want to die? If you must think so. Chapter 62 The dispute is over. Close observation. Advertise here. In fact, Moria didn't care about the bear's act of rescuing Straw Hat crew. After all, Master Aizen personally told them to let them go. But the way the bear talks really annoys Moria. Now that the Straw Hats have also run away, he can use his power without reservation. I've wanted to try this trick for a long time. Now that I have you as my opponent, I don't have anything to worry about. I saw Moria's one hand forming a claw, and a circle of red light surrounded her wrist, appearing and disappearing from time to time. False bomb. An invisible mass of Reiatsu was released extremely quickly, attacking the bear. Captured by his observation haki at the moment of release, and immediately hit back. Pressure cannon. The bear paw-shaped air mass pushed out and collided with the imaginary bullet in midair, producing a violent explosion sound. The damage of the two was evenly matched and offset each other, but it made the bear feel a little bit alert. The trick just now, no matter how you look at it, it doesn't seem like Yingying Guo can do it. Before he could figure it out, Moria's attacks followed. One after another, the virtual bullets compressed by Reiatsu continued. Bear pushed the observation haki to its limit, catching every angle of a false bullet. Putting both palms on the chest, they turned into afterimages in an instant. Shove the pressure cannon. The bear paw-shaped compressed air cannon hit the empty bullets one by one. After the attacks of the two were cancelled out again, Shang looked at Moria with an extremely serious look. The difference between the Moria in front of him and what he knew was too great. Weird attack methods, a body that doesn't match the reward order, and that brilliant swordsmanship. None of the means that Moria should have in his impression. Are you really Moria? Bear stared at him and asked seriously. Moria bared her fangs when she heard what he said, and let out a strange smile. He. Are you doubting my identity? Or do you think I, Moria, don't deserve such power? As he spoke, Moria's eyes gradually became dangerous. This demeanor can't help but alarm Shang greatly. Seeing his guarded appearance, Moria raised the corner of her mouth and said, if you doubt it, then I will prove it to you. This has been reserved for you since just now. A hand suddenly stretched out from the shadow under the bear's feet, aiming at his back and firing several false bullets in a row. Bang, bang, bang. Caught off guard, the bear's body was pushed to the ground by the impact of the explosion. Bloodline dripped down his cheeks. Just when Moria was about to taunt, the bear suddenly raised its head. A yellow laser beam shot out of his mouth, catching Moria off guard. Not only has extremely fast speed, but also has an explosive effect. Blowing Moria nearly 100 meters away, she lay on the ground, not knowing whether she was alive or dead. It took a while before she got up from the ground with her hands on her hands. Looking at Shang with an ugly face. This is Kizaru's ability. How can you use that guy Kizaru's fruit ability? This has nothing to do with you. You just need to know that the world government is recruiting all Shichibukai, and you need to come with me. Shang certainly won't reveal anything about the transformation. Although it is still only in the most preliminary stage, this is also a secret that cannot be said. This use is also a forced and helpless choice. After all, Luffy has been sent away, and he doesn't want to fight against the powerful Moria now. Because this battle is meaningless to him regardless of his burden. Seeing such an attitude, Moria only felt humiliated in her heart. Just as he was about to attack, Aizen's voice echoed in his ears. End this unintentional dispute, now I need you to do another thing. Hearing Aizen's voice, the anger on Moria's face disappeared. Spit at Shang unhappily. Go away, I will go by myself later. The bear who achieved his goal didn't force him to go with him immediately, but just nodded and turned to leave. Watching the warship that Shang was on sailed far away, a warship of the same level as it, passed by, and docked at the port. Moria smiled as if exasperated. And when two warships were traveling in the opposite direction at sea, one of them was on the deck. Aizen stood shoulder to shoulder with Zephyr. Behind them, Enel stood there respectfully. Ain, Bins and others accompanied him. They watched the bear pass by not far away, but they didn't notice it at all. Zephyr couldn't help sighing. Your Kyoka Suigetsu is too strong. At such a close distance, something as big as a warship can be hidden under Shichibukai's nose. Aizen chuckled and pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose, and said softly. A little trick is nothing more than a trick. Chapter 63 Anxious Jabra. Moria's prostration. Advertise here. The warship slowly sailed into the port of the terrifying three deceitful sailing ships. Surrounded by marine soldiers on board, Aizen, Zephyr, Enel, Ain, and Jabra walked down one by one. Behind them, there is a group of sailors struggling to carry them. It was Whitebeard too, Edward Weevil, who was captured by Enel. Let go of me, let me go. Mom, save me. But no matter how much he cried, the chains of seastone all over his body still trapped him so tightly that he couldn't move. And after him, a small old lady was pushed off the boat. You bastards, let me go. Do you know who I am? My son is one of the new 7 warlords of the sea invited by the world government. They also promised to give me an entire country as a fief. Miss Ba Jin still can't recognize the situation in front of him. He only thinks that he and others have been overshadowed by Zephyr. Zephyr, let your subordinates release me and my son, otherwise you will be responsible for the failure of Whitebeard because of the absence of my son. Ah, Mom, why should I deal with my father? After hearing this, Weevil, who was born with a dull mind, even forgot to struggle, and asked Miss Bajan blankly. Shut up, you are not allowed to ask now. Oh, good mother, I'll be good. She continued to chatter there, but it was a pity that no one paid attention to her. All the sailors present, since they were able to go to sea with Zephyr, they naturally respected Zephyr from the bottom of their hearts, respected his choice, and decided to follow him. The moment they went to sea, they were all mentally prepared to betray Marine. It's just that among these people, there is one person who seems to be hesitant, his eyes are flickering and dodging. This person is the original CP9 member, Jabra, recruited by Enel to lead the way. What are you doing? Isn't this old woman too bold? The two in front of you are Marine's former Admiral Zephyr, and the disciple of the current Marshal. Even though he was muttering so much, he still couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. At the beginning, the person who received the task handover from CP0 happened to be a senior who had worked with him. Although he didn't tell him any task-related news, he also analyzed some of them as a spy. As far as Whitebeard II's Shichibukai appointment seems to be true, it's not some trap plan. But now the actions of Zephyr and Aizen make him feel contradictory again. Don't think about Jabra. Aizen Vice Admiral is a celebrity that nobles rely heavily on, this must be a secret mission. As long as this task is completed, I have made meritorious service. At that time, not only will they be able to cancel their wanted arrests, but they might even be promoted. Quote. Jabra comforted himself in a low voice, but he didn't think that there was no secrecy in his low voice among the masters. Everyone came here with the excitement of Teacher Zephyr's imminent revenge, and they were naturally in a good mood, and they couldn't help but feel funny after hearing his muttering. You got on a pirate ship without knowing it, and you still want to go back and get promoted. I really don't know if he should suffer or laugh when he knows the truth of the matter. Zephyr was in a good mood at the moment, and he also let out a hearty laugh, ha ha ha. With his leadership, everyone laughed. Hearing this sudden laughter, Jabra over there couldn't help but feel a little hairy. What are these people laughing at? Baffling. Moria saw Aizen and the others coming, and immediately got up and looked over coldly. When his eyes touched Enel, he couldn't help showing a bit of dignity, especially when he saw the one on his waist. Is this guy the first Espada above me? It doesn't look like much. Marine's former Admiral Zephyr, I don't know what you want from me. Now he doesn't know that Zephyr is already with them, he only saw Aizen bringing many outsiders over. In order to avoid exposing his relationship with Master Aizen, he chooses to be indifferent to each other. But this worry and vigilance disappeared instantly after being affirmed by Aizen. Moria, it's all fellow countrymen here with us, take it easy. Moria was slightly taken aback when she heard the words, and looked at Zephyr over there. Her admiration for Aizen was even greater. Not only a pirate like myself, but even Marine's predecessor, Admiral, was instigated by adults. What a terrifying trick this is. While Moria sighed in her heart, she also walked up to Aizen, and knelt down on one knee under the surprised eyes of the rest of the crowd. Moria has met the adults. Chapter 64 Secret. Behind the Zephyr Hate. Advertise here. Moria has met the adults. Moria's prostration exceeded everyone's expectations. Except for Enel, who discovered the clues from him early on and noticed the existence of Reiatsu. No one can imagine that there is such a relationship between Moria, one of the dignified Shichibukai, and Marine Vice Admiral Aizen. Even Zephyr was a little surprised. Aizen, I thought you and him were just a cooperative relationship, but I didn't expect it to be like this. I really have to admit that every time I get to know you better, I find that I still underestimate you. Zephyr said with a sigh, unconsciously seeing a slight change in his speech attitude. It is no longer simply facing the juniors of the alliance, but an equal tone. Aizen also felt this change, but still chuckled and said, Teacher Zephyr, please be patient for a while, after all this is done, he will be yours. He looked at Weevil, who was tied up behind him. Then they smiled knowingly with Zephyr. It's been so many years, and it's not too late. Zephyr said generously, and then raised a question in a solemn tone. You know my current state, did you really let me beat him by myself? Quote. Feeling the uneasiness in his heart, Aizen nodded. Leave everything to me. As he spoke, he motioned to those behind him to carry Weevil over. Then he said to Moria, after he dies, implant a stronger shadow into his body, and then manipulate him to attend the Shichibukai meeting. The words are amazing. Aizen's words not only shocked Moria, but even Aizen and others who accompanied him were also surprised by his boldness. Are they going to kill me, Mom? Weevil looked at Ba Jin with a runny nose, and at this moment Ba Jin was also frightened by Aizen's words. There was no time to talk to her stupid son. Wait, what are you guys going to do? Kill the Shichibukai appointed by the world government, aren't you afraid? Before she could finish speaking, she was stopped by a pair of eyes. What a cold look. That kind of indifference is like holding up the gods in the sky to look down on the ants on the ground, without the slightest wave. Old man, don't take yourself too seriously. This world is big, and it's okay to lose everyone. What's more, your son will attend the Shichibukai meeting as scheduled, including you. This stage has already unfolded, and as a supporting role in it, you are still qualified to participate. Quote. Miss Bajan was too shocked to speak at this time. She has seen it. This man praised by the outside world, this man who was the disciple of Marshal Marine, must have ulterior motives and plans. And she and her silly son became his bargaining chip to attract Zephyr. Wait, I have something to say, you can't kill me. At this time, Ba Jin could no longer care about her silly son, and only thought about saving his life. But the irony is that after hearing her begging for mercy, that fellow Weevil thought of her safety the first time. Don't hurt Mom, woo. Mom, don't touch her. Weevil kept struggling, and the seastone chains on his body made knocking noises. With such a gesture, even Zephyr, who was full of hatred, couldn't help being silent. But only for an instant. As long as he thought of the tragic death of the students on that ship, and the thought of his wife and children being killed, the murderous intent in his eyes became extraordinarily firm. It seemed that he felt the killing intent in Zephyr's eyes. Ba Jin's fear reached its peak at this moment, and he began to throw bets continuously in order to beg for mercy. You can't kill me, I have a lot of treasure, gold, gems, and. Seeing that the treasure gold had no effect on them, Ba Jin finally threw out a blockbuster. I can tell you who leaked the whereabouts of the Zephyr fleet back then. The moment she blurted out, everyone's eyes were fixed on her. Especially Zephyr, Ian and other people who narrowly escaped from that encounter back then, all of them stared at her like spikes at this moment. What do you mean by that? Could it be that someone deliberately leaked the route of our fleet back then? Ain rushed to him and asked. Seeing that they were so nervous, Ba Jin immediately seemed to have taken the initiative. He took a deep breath and said with a wicked smile, Little girl, do you think I'll just tell you that? Ian still wanted to speak, but was pulled aside by Zephyr. Looking at the face of the enemy in front of him, Zephyr suppressed the killing intent in his heart. Say it, and I can give you a happy time. Hey, that's not okay. Unless you promise to let me and Weevil go, I won't tell you. As Ba Jin spoke, he still did not forget to shirk his guilt. In the end, you spared my life and Weevil's life back then, and if we hadn't been forced to, we didn't want to embarrass you and your students. All of this can only be blamed on the guy behind. Weevil and I are just knives in their hands. Your real enemies are them. Quote. She kept harassing Zephyr with words, trying to transfer Zephyr's hatred of the two of them to the so-called, behind the scenes. She couldn't help but rejoice seeing Zephyr fall silent. I thought my plan was going to succeed. Unexpectedly, Zephyr turned to Aizen and said, I'm counting on you again. Happy to oblige. Aizen chuckled and pulled out the Zanpakuto from his waist, and placed it in front of Ba Jin. What are you going to do? Shatter. Kyoka Suigetsu. Chapter 65 Transformation of Zephyr. Advertise here. Under the control of Kyoka Suigetsu, Ba Jin told the events of that year in detail. The truth of the matter was exactly the opposite of what she said. After being let go by Zephyr, Ba Jin was not only not grateful, but also harbored hatred. Later, by chance, she took Weevil and hijacked a high-ranking world government official. In order to save his life, the official contacted an officer in Marine who was interested in getting close to him in front of her. That's why I know the route of Zephyr's fleet and the exact address of his family. Ba Jin's eyes were empty, and he spoke expressionlessly. And the people who learned the truth burst into tears. How come? In covered his mouth, but tears were streaming down his face, and Bins and Shuzo beside him were even more sobbing. Zephyr stroked his forehead and covered his eyes, 2 lines of tears streaming down his face. In the end, did you actually get betrayed by your own people? Lonely, frustrated, unexpectedly, he was the former Admiral of Marine, and later the chief instructor. It turned out that he was betrayed by people from the world government a long time ago, and he didn't know the truth until now. Zephyr grabbed Ba Jin's collar, lifted her short body, and asked sharply, "Say, who are they?" The official of the world government is Maintel, who has been killed by Weevil, but the Marine named Shapat is still alive. Zephyr froze there with a slightly dazed expression, loosening his hands and throwing Ba Jin to the ground. Who was behind him, exclaimed, "Shapat. How could it be him?" When Shuzo heard her voice, he knew that she must know him, and hurriedly asked, "Who was he?" At this time, Zephyr's deep voice came, and killing intent was hidden in it. Shui Pat, a student in the 4th session of the training camp. He obviously has the talent of being above average, but Ishin seeks power and wants to befriend world government officials. Lieutenant Colonel and Special Prosecutor at Naval Headquarters. Quote. The 4th session of the training camp. Doesn't that mean? Everyone looked at Zephyr with sad eyes. Was he actually betrayed by his own students, teacher? Enough. Don't look at me with that look. Sensing their gaze, Zephyr said angrily, now that you know the truth, let's start the next step quickly. I have endured for too long. As he spoke, he looked at Aizen. Aizen also understood and stripped Hogyoku from his body. Then let's start by getting back the power. Hearing the conversation between the two, everyone stepped back to make room for him. But Enel and Moria, who had already experienced this, stared closely at Zephyr, curious that he would be the Espada of the sequence after the conversion. When Zephyr was gradually wrapped in white matter, everyone fell into waiting. Ba Jin over there also regained consciousness after being thrown to the ground, and clearly remembered what happened just now. She looked at Aizen in horror. What did you do to me? Aizen didn't answer, just turned her back silently to leave her a back view, and cast her eyes on Jabra behind the crowd. At this time, Jabra was also shocked by the news he heard before, and his heart became more and more disturbed. World government officials and Marine officers revealed Marine's internal secrets and murdered high-level family members. No matter how you look at it, this is not an easy task. If things go on like this, not to mention getting promoted and getting rich, whether he can be cancelled and returned to CP9 will be a problem. And the posture of these people doesn't look like they are performing a secret mission, right? On the contrary, there are some seem to be making some big noise. His eyes flicked around, observing the expressions of the Marine soldiers around him. Until he saw Aizen's eyes fixed on him. Immediately frightened Jilling. Jabra, come to me. Aizen's voice is still soft, but so irresistible. Jabra didn't know what would happen if he didn't do so, so he obediently stepped forward. Hey, Mr. Vice Admiral, what's your order? The nodding and bowing appearance even seemed a little flattering, but no one cared about it. Just looked at him quietly like that. There is something urgent that needs you to do now. Just do your bidding. Jabra always felt that the atmosphere here was weird and something was wrong. Now that he heard that there was a mission, he was even more eager to use the excuse of the mission to leave here immediately, so he vowed to complete the mission. Then I saw Aizen pointing to Ba Jin over there, and said coldly, kill her. Oh, so it was killed. Jabra's smile froze, and he looked at Aizen with an ugly face. If he was only skeptical before, he is almost certain now. These people must be going to make something big. This is not asking him to complete the task, it is clearly asking him to submit a nomination certificate by himself, so that he can't turn back at all. Otherwise, with so many people present, anyone could kill an old lady like Ba Jin who was unable to fight back. Why did you have to pick him out of the crowd? She is Zephyr Admiral's enemy, let me kill, isn't it good? Jabra was sweating profusely on his head, stumbling and wanting to shirk. But Aizen put a hand on his shoulder and said softly, even if there is hatred, Teacher Zephyr's justice will not allow him to do something to an old man who is unable to fight back. So this troublesome thing is left to you, Jabra. Would you like to help the teacher? Chapter 66 Jabra, Hope for All CP9. Advertise here. Aizen's voice echoed in his ears. Jabra swallowed, his body shivering uncontrollably. Tremblingly said, wish, yes, this is my honor. Then, under the gaze of everyone, he walked up to Ba Jin with his legs as if injected with lead. No, don't kill me, don't kill me. Under the crisis of life and death, Ba Jin's thin body didn't know where the strength came from, and he wanted to escape while dragging the heavy shackles. Weevil, who was bound heavily over there, also broke out with all his strength and struggled with all his might. Mom, woo woo woo, let go of my mother. He looked at Ba Jin, who was about to escape, and shouted desperately. It's just that his mother didn't even look back at him, she just wanted to escape in a panic. Under the gaze of everyone, Jabra slowly raised his right leg and pointed it in Ba Jin's direction. Tempest kick. The powerful kicking technique rolls up a vacuum attack, which slices across Ba Jin's body like a kendo slash. Blood splattered everywhere, and Ba Jin flew out without breath. And her death also caused Weevil to fall into a frenzy close to rampage. Mom, I'm going to kill you. Ah, he struggled frantically. It's just that under the shackles of seastone chains, everything he does is in vain. Aizen looked at Weevil, who was gradually losing his mind, and couldn't help thinking. Guys like you are easy to control, but it's a pity that you have to be a sacrifice to let Teacher Zephyr completely break away from the shackles of marine and world government. Weevil is naturally a good choice as a combat power, but Zephyr's prestige is unmatched by him anyway. Marine predecessor Admiral, friends of Marshal Sengoku and hero Garp. The current 3 admirals, many vice admirals and subordinate generals, add up to no one knows how many people are his students. In this case, the meaning of Zephyr can no longer be defined by simple combat power. Wait a little longer, I will let you go after he transforms successfully. ... Then he patted Jabra on the shoulder. Congratulations, join us. When Aizen's words fell into Jabra's ears, his whole face was ashen. Finally on board the thief ship. Fortunately, at the time, he still swore that there would be no problem with them, but in the end, I am afraid that he really wanted to implicate the entire CP9 members. But now that things have happened, there is only one way to go to the dark. Just when he was mentally prepared for this. On the other side, his companions who are still being hunted down are hiding their names and doing various jobs on Pawaboga Island to earn medical expenses for Lucci's injuries. Kaku, as Zone Niu Fruit Giraffe type ability user, turns into a children's slide on the street and provides stroking services. Nugget set up a roadside stall and started performing arts. And Khalifa, who is the only woman, also used her bubble fruit ability to participate in the work of the cleaners. Obviously has a strong strength but is using this method to make money. When they finished today's work and gathered at the hospital where Lucci was. Lucci, who had woken up from a coma, looked at them. Is there any news from Jabra now? Not yet, but according to what he said before, all of this is a mission secretly arranged by celestial dragons. If it is true, I believe we will be able to go back soon. Khalifa pushed his glasses and said. During this period of time, in order to earn medical expenses, everyone dragged their injuries to work. And in order to avoid chasing and killing, they must always be alert to the people around them. He doesn't have the energy to understand the outside world, and he doesn't know that Enel, who took Jabra away, is now a terrifying existence with a reward of 1.3 billion. In short, the most important thing now is Lucci's injury. Jabra believes that he will have a sense of proportion. We just wait quietly. Kaku, who has been at loggerheads with Jabra, said something nice about him. Although there will be some competition and friction between a few of them when they were in CP, they are partners who have trained and grown up together since they were young, and there is still some trust between them. Seeing that he had already said that, Lucci didn't ask any more questions. Really, so be it, you have worked hard during this time. Lucci, who has always been indifferent, said a rare word of comfort after seeing the dedication and care of his companions. It caused everyone to chuckle, and even the fatigue of many days of hard work was reduced a lot. ... But on a small island near the Devil's Triangle, there is a group of people who are completely opposite to their warmth. All of them were downcast, like a concubine. Shall we go on? Nami didn't look in a good mood, curled up in a corner of the deck. There is a lingering sense of unreality in the mind. I was still fighting just now, and suddenly appeared in a strange place. Sanji lit a cigarette for himself, and stepped on the deck under his feet with a pair of leather shoes. Even the boat was sent over. Our strength is still too weak. Zoro grabbed the famous knife Chushui beside him, looked at the skeleton on the mast and said in a deep voice. The bear's blow not only shattered Ryoma's body and let the shadow return to Brook's body, but also sent the autumn water in his hand. Not only helped them resolve the crisis, but also successfully sent their new partner Brook aboard. Only, the blow to them this time is also unprecedented. Until now they couldn't figure it out, it was also one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Between Crocodile, Moria and Shang, how can there be such a big gap in strength? Even Luffy was staring blankly at the sky at this time, and the seabirds that occasionally flew by failed to attract his attention. It was not until a long time later that Luffy stood up. With one hand on the straw hat, he said solemnly, "Go ahead. The dream cannot be flinched, he is the man who wants to become the One Piece." Under Luffy's decision, everyone cheered up quickly. Continue toward the second half of the Grand Line. Chapter 67 Confront Weevil. Advertise here. Dreadful 3 Deceitful Sailboat. Reiatsu on Zephyr is getting more and more stable. Even Enel and Moria knew the transformation was coming to an end. What makes them feel strange is that for some reason, this Reiatsu breath is different from the two of them. As for their doubts, Aizen is naturally well aware. Teacher Zephyr is different from you, you are Arankar, essentially a virtual who has mastered the power of Shinigami. And Teacher Zephyr is just the opposite of you, he is a Shinigami who has mastered the power of virtual. This explanation surprised Enel and Moria, and at the same time, they were curious about Zephyr's specialness. Is he so special because of his relationship with Aizen-sama? They thought so in their hearts, but they wisely didn't say it out loud. But where can't Aizen see it? Actually, in the process of transformation, whether to become a Shinigami or an Arrancar, you all have a choice. The two were slightly taken aback when they heard the words, their brows were furrowed and they began to think. Vaguely, it seemed to recall the choice when so many white silks were hanging down. Could it be? All that responded to them was Aizen's slightly smiling side face. At this moment, his gaze was fixed on Zephyr, with a little expectation in his eyes. You must know that so far, countless people have been tested by Aizen, and there are many big pirates with a bounty of over 100 million. But without exception, they all turned into ordinary voids. Among them, the powerful ones have directly become Manos Grande, and since Lafitte, there has been a precedent for Arrancar. Even Yuta is nothing more than an ordinary Shinigami. I didn't expect Teacher Zephyr to bring me such a surprise. What a surprise. Amid Aizen's exclamation, Zephyr's figure began to move. Grabbing the already formed mask on his face, he shattered it violently. Teacher, In and others, who had been waiting for a long time, finally let go of their hanging hearts at this moment. Teacher, are you okay? Zephyr flexed his muscles, especially his right hand, which had been too badly injured to exert strength. Looking at the right hand clenched into a fist, I felt the strength coming back. There was a smile on his face that he hadn't seen for a long time. Of course it's okay, I haven't been so relaxed for many years. Homeopathic also picked up the Zanpakuto at the waist. With the blade out of its sheath, take a closer look. It's been a long time since I saw Teacher Zephyr use a sword again. Aizen walked over slowly and said with a smile. While lamenting the good sword, Zephyr did not forget to say, although I still like to use fists, the old man's swordsmanship is also very strong. No one will question his words. Marine includes Admiral Kizaru, Vice Admiral Huo Shaoshan, Ghost Spider and others are masters of swordsmanship, and some of them are disciples of Zephyr. This alone is enough to explain. Aizen nodded and looked over at Weevil who was still furious. Start now. Zephyr stopped admiring Zanpakuto's movements and silently sheathed the knife. He first glanced at Weevil who was struggling constantly, then looked around for a moment, and saw Ba Jin lying in a pool of blood. There was silence for a while, not knowing what to think. Thanks, Aizen. Easy to do. Putting his gaze back on Weevil, Zephyr took a deep breath. Then let's start, and it's time to finish it. Teacher, you just recovered now, or? Binz was worried about Zephyr's condition, and wanted to persuade him to wait. But Zephyr made up his mind and raised his hand to stop what he wanted to say. Don't persuade me, I'm at my best now. What you have to do now is everyone return to the warship and sail 30 nautical miles away from this sea area. Quote. The sudden order made everyone look at each other in dismay, but they followed it at a very fast speed. Teacher, let us stay. As Zephyr's three confidants, Ain, Binz, and Shuzo still want to stay. But he still left under Zephyr's eyes. They were taken away together with Moria's subordinate Perona. After a while, only Zephyr, Enel, Moria, and Aizen were left on the entire island. Of course, there is also Weevil who was thrown on the ground. Since Mr. Zephyr, you have made a decision, I will leave it to you. Aizen took Enel and Moria with him, and disappeared in the same place in an instant, appearing above the terrifying sailing ship. When everyone left, only Zephyr and Weevil remained on the island. The aura on Zephyr's body condensed into Reiatsu like a tide, forming a golden beam of light in the sky above him. Slashing with a casual knife, Weevil's restraint was released. Mom, I'm going to kill you. Kill all of you. Weevil got up from the ground, the chain slipping from him. A pair of eyes were burning with rage, and the murderous aura overflowed uncontrollably, attacking Zephyr. Seeing this, Zephyr grinned and kicked the pheasant knife under his feet to him. Bring it on, Mom. Woo woo woo. Weevil grabbed the pheasant knife and charged at Zephyr immediately. While crying, he slashed down with the pheasant knife in his hand. Zephyr held the Zanpakuto, watching Weevil's attack loom. In my heart, I unexpectedly felt a trace of peace. Little ghost, this time is different from before. Armament Haki is entwined in the right hand, and golden Reiatsu is blooming all over the body. The battle ensued. Above the sky, Aizen looked at the two fighting together, and said to Moria next to him with a chuckle, it seems that after this battle is over, Moria, you will change your home. Without waiting for Moria's response, he turned to look at Enel. Is Sky Island ready? Don't dare to neglect the instructions of the Lord God, your palace has been preliminarily remodeled. Really? That's good. Chapter 68 Zephyr liberates Zanpakuto. Broken day. Advertise here. God, this guy with big earlobes really has a way of flattering. This kind of human sequence is still above him, it is outrageous. Moria squinted at Enel, curled her lips in disdain. The three looked at the two fighting below, and the aftermath of the battle became more and more powerful. Boom, boom. The roar of explosions can be heard endlessly. Even Perona and Binz, who are 30 nautical miles away, can clearly hear them. In couldn't help worrying about the teacher. the teacher has just recovered, and now he is fighting that monster. What if something happens? Seeing this, Binz pointed to the three figures in the distance, and said comfortingly, "Don't worry. Teacher Zephyr doesn't need to be distracted to protect us this time, and he won't be attacked by that guy. And the Aizen Vice Admiral is still there, and Moria and the demon Enel, it must be fine." Quote. Hearing his comfort, Aizen's heart also settled down a little. At this time, Perona on the other side of the deck came over with a stuffed bear toy, and said proudly, "Don't worry, Master Moria is very strong, protecting an old man is not a problem at all." Hollow, hollow, hollow. Old man. Everyone glared at Perona's words, and Absalom next to him looked at the eyes of the people around him, and tugged at her sleeve nervously. "Hey, we're on someone else's boat now." "Oh, what does that matter? Aren't we all under Aizen-sama anyway?" Perona said as a matter of course. And her words made everyone startled. "Is it Lord Aizen's subordinate?" The three of Ain looked at each other and fell silent. They have always respected Teacher Zephyr's order, and their attitude towards Aizen is only out of seniority, out of his gratitude for helping Teacher Zephyr. But now that Mr. Zephyr has obviously joined his camp, should he and others recognize their own positions? Just when their thoughts were turning, a strong roar interrupted them. Immediately afterwards, Weevil's painful roar resounded throughout the universe. Mother. Every attack of Weevil condenses the whole body armament hockey. It is no exaggeration to say that every blow is full strength. This made Zephyr, who was fighting against him, feel a little strenuous. Sure enough, do people burst out with great strength when they are extremely angry? Zephyr took off the torn clothes on his body, revealing his solid muscles. He clenched Zanpakuto even tighter in his hand, and the calmness on his face turned ferocious at some point. "But, I was betrayed, I lost my wife and children, I lost my students. I've always been angry." With the continuous infusion of Reiatsu, the Zanpakuto in Zephyr's hand radiated a dark golden light. Such a change was unexpected by Aizen, and he couldn't help but be a little surprised. As expected of Teacher Zephyr, he has mastered this power just after transforming into a Shinigami. Enel and Moria fixed their eyes on Zephyr. Wanted to see how Shinigami Zanpakuto's liberation was different from their Aaroncar's returning blade. Under everyone's gaze, Zephyr held a knife in both hands and shouted loudly. "Destroy. Shatter the sun." Reiatsu produces a strong golden light, which is as dazzling as the sun, making it impossible to look directly at. And accompanied by a huge air wave, the attacking Weevil was thrown away. The blowing made the clothes of Aizen and others rustle in midair, and the seawater created waves, and even the warship with Aizen and others on the distant sea shook violently. What a terrifying power. Is this really Teacher Zephyr? Envy flashed in Binz's eyes, and he couldn't help thinking, could this be the power bestowed by Master Aizen? And there are not a few who have such thoughts. Unknowingly, Aizen's status in their hearts has also risen to a higher level. It also includes Jabra, who has just surrendered. After seeing this power, the anxiety in his heart also dissipated, replaced by the desire to obtain this power. It's such a strong breath, it makes people shudder. If I can get this kind of power, even if I don't go back to the world government, I can still protect Cuddle, Lucci and the others. No one knows what he thinks. It's just that when the golden light gradually converges, there is a touch of black light in the center. After the light faded, Zephyr's figure appeared. He stood there with his upper body bare, and a jet black gauntlet with a gold edge appeared on his right arm. Spread from the fist to the elbow, wrapping it completely. This is his Zanpakuto's Shikai, Broken Sun. P.S. Ask for a wave of data at the end. It will be on the shelves around 1 o'clock noon, I hope you can support it. Argentina lost, their mentality exploded, and their wallets also exploded. It hurts, it hurts. Chapter 69. Under the rule of Zai Palace, Zephyr established a new marine. Advertise here. The liberation of Zephyr Zanpakuto did not frighten Weevil. At this moment, he is not so much falling into a rage of anger, it is better to say that he has been completely dominated by that anger. Even though Zephyr broke his left arm with a punch, he continued to rush forward as if he didn't feel the pain. Kill you. With his remaining arm, Weevil touched the pheasant knife whose blade had been shattered and only a long stick remained, roaring and roaring. Tears and snot mixed on his face, making the already crowded facial features seem to be covered with paste. In the strong wind, Zephyr walked towards him step by step. Weevil, do you feel that kind of pain right now? The pain of losing everything, and the deep sense of powerlessness. On his arm, the broken sun emitted a coquettish black light, mixed with strands of golden light. Its shape has actually undergone some changes. From the streamlined appearance of the whole body to sharp edges and corners. Let me finish you with my own hands now. Sunbreaker Starburst. With a roar, Zephyr's fist blasted out in the air, almost at the same time as the fist was punched, a strong explosion occurred on Weevil's body. Boom! A dazzling golden light burst out, blowing Weevil's huge body into the air. Not only that, but when the golden light disappeared, countless small rays of light exploded, like stars bursting. Like sparks flying out, it left a lot of burns on Weevil, who was already seriously injured. It hurts, Mom, woo woo woo. Weevil fell to the ground, and the blow just now broke his 2 legs, making him completely unable to fight back. At the same time, 627 also got rid of the anger of chaotic consciousness. lying there like a child who fell down, crying for mother. Weevil, even if a guy like you is a knife, it's a heinous crime. Zephyr grabbed Weevil by the neck and lifted him up. Limbs were removed. Blood continued to flow from the wound. Woo woo woo. Zephyr stared at him through gritted teeth, then flung himself into the air. Reiatsu in the body released wildly, and swung the strongest punch in the sky. Sun-shattering fist. Fall of the stars. Under the dark clouds, the golden light pierces the darkness. The brilliance emanates from the fist, rising slowly like a sun from bottom to top. What a mess, Teacher Fa. Aizen showed helplessness, and then said to Moria beside him, "It seems that your work will take more effort." Moria nodded earnestly when she heard the words. "I hope that idiot won't be completely broken up by him, otherwise it's hard for me to guarantee that the stitched one won't be seen by Marine. That's it. It seems that it's time for us to need a doctor." Aizen spoke thoughtfully, while Moria beside him was speechless. Although he also has a famous doctor like Hobak by his side, he is probably too far away to get into Master Aizen's eyes. Is this the power of Shinigami? And on the warship near the sea, the people who were anxiously waiting for the result couldn't help being shocked when they saw the sun-like light on the island. Under their watchful eyes, the golden sun rose and collided with Weevil in midair, and then got into his body. Woo! Weevil whimpered a few times, and after absorbing a large amount of Zephyr's Reiatsu, his whole body began to swell rapidly. When he has bulged into a complete spherical shape, every part of his body is like an egg whose shell has been cracked. Eyes, ears, mouth, and wounds all over the body. Golden light shines from the cracks in various parts of the body. Quote. With a loud explosion, the whole island was in motion. It seems that Teacher Zephyr doesn't want to trouble you either. Aizen sighed. It seems so. Weevil's body was directly reduced to fly ash by Zephyr's blow, and there was nothing left except for the severed limbs that had been interrupted before. People are gone, so there is no need for Moria to mend the corpses. Enel on the side frowned, showing dissatisfaction. In his opinion, Zephyr's actions disrupted Aizen's plans. Losing Weevil would result in the absence of the Shichibukai meeting, leaving a blemish on the stage that Master Aizen had carefully prepared. He is against the will of the gods, does he need to be punished by his subordinates? Just as he spoke, a Shunpo from Zephyr appeared in front of them. He heard what Enel said just now, and realized that he had gone too far, and said to Aizen, "Sorry, I disrupted your plan." What he said made Enel very upset. Since you have surrendered to God, you must put yourself in a correct posture, and you will be punished for disobeying orders. The light flickers, and the killing appears. Zephyr surprisingly didn't refute after hearing this, but just frowned and looked at Aizen, wondering what he was thinking. Stop it, Enel. Yes. Enel Lei Guang was introverted, bowing and standing beside Aizen. Teacher Zephyr, don't worry about it. It's just an insignificant Agfei matter. What you have to do now is to get rid of the evil. Aizen said with a chuckle, but his eyes were fixed on Zephyr up and down. After a while, Zephyr seemed to have figured something out. The straight waist unexpectedly bent down slowly, and bowed towards Aizen like Enel did. Teacher Zephyr, what is this? Aizen said so, but the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Give me strength to help me take revenge, or let me recognize the true colors of world government and marine, no matter which point I should salute you. If your goal is to overthrow the corrupt world government, then I and these people under me will obey orders. Aizen nodded, accepting it calmly. It was at this moment that Zephyr finally joined him completely. After the storm, the people who had been waiting for a long time on the warship couldn't help but hesitate when they saw that there was no movement. Ain, after so long without motivation, the battle should be over. Let's pull the boat over. Shuzo was a little eager to know the result, and urged him loudly. Although I affirmed Teacher Zephyr's victory in my heart, I was still a little nervous before seeing the exact result, and wanted to go to the island to find out. And there are no longer a few people who think this way, and those who support it have also spoken out. Even the timid Absalom stood up and said, "Get the boat over there, I'm going to the island." The power of the explosion just now was really terrifying. He is now a little worried about whether the collections he hid in the castle are still there. Except for some people who hold this point of view, there are still some people who feel that they are still waiting here honestly. In case the battle is not over, they take the liberty to land on the island. May become a burden to Teacher Zephyr, reenacting the previous tragedy. It was Ain and Binz, the only survivors who held this view. They tried their best to appease the restless people. Everyone should wait quietly for the final result. The situation is unknown now, don't let what happened last time repeat itself. We have to trust Teacher Zephyr. Just when Ain and Binz tried their best to appease everyone, the four figures slowly fell in the air. Ain, Binz, you did a great job. Zephyr's voice came. Teacher, are you okay? Everyone looked at him at the same time, and immediately surrounded him, greeting him with concern. Zephyr shook his head, and shook off Ain's caressing hand. He walked up to the crowd and opened his arms under their gaze. The world government is rotten, the marine festers and fails justice, and evil pirates are all over the world, bringing endless suffering to the people. It is imperative to overthrow the decaying world government and build a new order on its ruins. Today, I, Zephyr, will set up a new marine under the Void Palace to restore order in the sea. From today, I, Zephyr, will be the new marine commander. Although everyone has been prepared in their hearts, when this moment really comes. They heard Zephyr leave the marine with their own ears, and they still couldn't help crying. The justice that has been upheld for so many years has finally been wrongly paid. The three of Ain looked at the passionate Zephyr, with tears of excitement streaming from their eyes. This moment, they waited too long. See the commander-in-chief. Under their leadership, the entire warship resounded with tearing shouts. See the commander-in-chief. The shouting sounded far, far away on the sea. Chapter 70 Prelude to the Big News, Morgan's Secret Call. Advertise here. With the addition of Zephyr, Aizen is also happy to see the establishment of the new marine. Like Espada's respective subordinate officers, he had no interest in asking their respective subordinates. As long as you can use it for yourself. Under the gaze of all his subordinates, Zephyr walked slowly to Aizen. Lead us to defeat this rotten world government. As he spoke, he performed a standard military salute. And under his leadership, all the old marines on the fleet also saluted together. They followed their commander-in-chief Zephyr in unison and said, "Lead us to defeat this rotten world government." What? Aizen chuckled. I heard your demands. When Zephyr led a large number of marine elites to set up a new branch. Marine hasn't noticed anything yet. Not only that, they even learned from the information sent back by Aizen that Zephyr is still hunting down various pirate groups. Even the five elders couldn't help being surprised when they heard the news. Has the Zephyr finally come to terms with reality? It seems so. Wanting to die in the Summit War plan is not ashamed of the backbone of a soldier. If that's the case, let him be fulfilled, and give him a decent death is also worthy of him. But what if he doesn't want to be respectable? If he doesn't want to be decent, we will help him to be decent. Who will do it? Doflamingo is a great choice. That's it. They decide the life and death of others with a few words, but they don't know that they are surrounded by a bigger conspiracy. The praying mantis catches the cicada and the oriole is behind. Who is the praying mantis and who is the oriole is yet to be known. With the advance of Marine's top plan, the news of Fire Fist Ace's arrest also spread across the sea. Countless people have also smelled a different taste from it. When was the last time Marine made a catch with such fanfare? Somewhere in the New World, Ergens, the president of the World Economic News Agency, asked his subordinates. As one of the kings of the underground world. In particular, he is extremely persistent in all kinds of big news, and he also has a corresponding sensitivity. An acumen for discovering the hot-button events that make up big news. President, if I remember correctly, the last time Golden Lion stormed the Marine headquarters and was arrested by Marshal Sengoku and Marine hero Garp. The subordinates pondered for a while before giving the answer. Morgan's bird feathers supported his chin, and his eyes kept turning. A big man like Golden Lion can't be equated with a Fire Fist Ace. Marine can also execute him secretly if he is caught, there is no need for this. Except EE. Think of Ace's status in the Whitebeard Pirates. He seemed to have discovered something extraordinary, and let out a strange laugh. Quack quack, it turns out that this is the real big news. Little ones, hurry up, I want to write the press release myself, and I must send this news to you as quickly as possible, worldwide. Yes, the employees in the news agency headquarters immediately became busy. In just half a day, the news spread across the sea with the newspapers sent by Newsbird. On the large space of the headline on the front page, a few large characters are written in the middle. Fire Fist Ace is arrested, Marine declares war on the four emperors. Just a title shakes the entire sea, and countless people pass it on. At this time, Sengoku in Marine's office was very angry. He threw down the newspaper in his hand and slapped it on the table in front of him. Boom. What does this Morgans want to do? To speculate on Marine's movements, and dare to send it out without any verification. Seeing his angry appearance, the crane next to him was a little indifferent. This is also a fact. Anyway, we are going to release this news. Now is not the time to care about this. You should not be angry. Don't be angry. This means that we do have such an action plan, what if we don't? His behavior of guessing is likely to bring huge losses to Marine. Crane's exhortation did not calm Sengoku's anger, but further aroused his dissatisfaction with Morgans and his news agency. But even though he was talking like this, there was one sentence in his words that he agreed with. Now is not the time to worry about this. Sooner or later, I'm going to arrest Morgans and his news agency. After a hasty vent, Sengoku sat back in his seat. Seeing that he had adjusted his state, Tsurumi asked, what are you going to say to Garp? After all, Ace is the grandson raised by Garp, and of course there is no need to explain. It is Marine's duty to catch thieves. Garp, the Marine hero, understands that. On the first day of Ace's sea trip, Garp, as a grandfather, should have made such mental preparations. Not only Fire Fist Ace, but also Luffy the Straw Hat Kid. Both. It's just that responsibilities belong to responsibilities, and favors belong to favors. After all, they are old buddies who have worked together for most of their lives, and it is really difficult for the two of them to speak. Especially when I learned that Garp had finished his vacation and was going back to the headquarters. Sengoku frowned. Under such circumstances, even he, who is called the resourceful general, would find it difficult. God knows how Garp will react when he gets the news. Just when the two were at a loss, the door of Sengoku's office was opened. Or to be more precise, he was kicked away. It's very brave to break into the marshal's office. Sengoku, tell me what the hell is going on here. Garp, who had sent back the news that he would not be back until tomorrow, suddenly appeared and asked, throwing today's newspaper on Sengoku's desk. Sengoku looked at his angry look and sighed. Sure enough, I still can't escape this encounter. Caressing the eyes on his face, Sengoku was just Garp. As you can see, we captured the Whitebeard Pirates' 2nd Division captain, Fire Fist Ace. Not only that, but we're going to execute him publicly to lure Whitebeard to save him, and then leave that man behind for good. Public execution. After hearing this, Garp was struck by lightning, and grabbed Sengoku's collar. Why is there a public execution? They have already been arrested. Shouldn't they be imprisoned in Impel Down? Impel Down. Sengoku let him hold his shirt, staring coldly at his angry face. Why don't you still understand? It's not enough to protect the widow of One Piece, but also to adopt his blood. I have hidden all this for so many years, should I reward you? Huh, Garp, what are you talking about? Sengoku's attitude exceeded Suru's expectations. She also didn't expect that Sengoku, who was fine just now, would be so tough after seeing Garp. She didn't know how to intervene. And Garp's reaction was also surprising. After hearing Sengoku's questioning, his whole person's aura dropped, and he completely lost the aggressive appearance just now. 0. Asking for flowers. So you all know, Garp said desolately, and the hand holding Sengoku loosened. Sengoku adjusted his clothes and took a few steps back to distance himself from him. After seeing his mood at the moment, Sengoku's voice became dull. Garp, you are a marine hero, the object of worship of countless marine fighters. I hope you will not do anything out of the ordinary. Garp lowered his head and was silent for a long time before finally saying, I see. Then where is he now? Impel Down. Can I go see him? Sengoku didn't answer, just looked at the old friend in front of him, as if he was haggard in an instant. He, who has been out of tune for so many years, actually had a hint of pleading in his tone. Alas, sighed lightly. You go. But I want you to remember who you are. Quote. This is just one scene of naval headquarters in a corner of the world. The impact of Morgan's papers went far beyond that. Point 0. Not only is Marine deeply affected in the article, but so is the pirate camp. The thousands of people on the Moby Dick, the main ship of the Whitebeard pirates, were silent. Whitebeard looked at the newspaper in his hand and didn't speak for a long time. Until Marco stood up. Dad, I'll get Ace back. Yeah Dad, let's go get Ace back. Impel Down, the Golden Lion can do it back then, so can we. Captain Ace can't fall into their marine income, let's go. George, Vista, White Bay. The captains gathered one by one and volunteered to rescue Ace. Under their chatter, Whitebeard grabbed the Kong Yunchi beside him and slammed it towards the deck. The shock made everyone shut up. When they were all quiet, Whitebeard pulled the IV tube off his body and stood up. Gu la la la. Dad is still alive, it's not your turn to make a move. But Dad, don't talk about Marco, I'm the day. Everyone couldn't persuade him, and there was nothing they could do about him. The situation on the sea is changing, and it seems that it has become more violent at this moment. And all this is what Morgan's hoped for. Big news. This is just a prelude, a pavement for a more perfect big news. Such a voice came from the phone bug. His words also made Morgan's agree with him. That's right, that's right. That's how real big news should be treated like this. Who would have thought? The big incident that is raging at sea now is actually fueled by someone behind the scenes. And I am also fortunate to participate in it as a witness. More Faith was very satisfied with the influence of the newspaper this time, and even agreed to make a more stupid and impossible bet in the eyes of outsiders. If you really have the strength to make enough news, I will consider joining you. After getting his answer, there was a chuckle from the phone bug. The voice said softly and kindly. Then let us look forward to it together. Chapter 71 Lieutenant Junior Grade Moore's Shock, Interview with Sengoku. Advertise here. A few days after that phone call, Morgan's was nowhere to be seen. If he hadn't left a few words before disappearing, I'm afraid the news agency would have been messed up by now. Who would have thought that the current situation in the sea was disrupted by his sudden disclosure, and he himself disappeared inexplicably? That is, these few days, Aizen and Zephyr troops returned to naval headquarters. As if nothing happened, everything went on as usual. It's just that a middle-aged nobleman in gentleman's clothes suddenly appeared beside Aizen. More Lieutenant Junior Grade, please stay with me during this time. On the port of Marineford, Aizen said to the middle-aged man beside him. Moore nodded and did not speak, but his eyes kept scanning his surroundings. Naval headquarters. It's my first time here too. If you are interested, you can look around, maybe you will find something unexpected. Unexpectedly, Aizen allowed him to walk freely in the naval headquarters. It's just that this made the other party a little suspicious. Moore narrowed his narrow eyes slightly, looked at his back and said in disbelief. Although I have heard the name of Aizen Vice Admiral, but after all, Vice Admiral is just Vice Admiral. This is Marineford at naval headquarters, can you guarantee that I have no trouble in this place? Cannot, Aizen said concisely. Moore was about to ridicule when he heard the words, but he heard him say, as long as you don't get in close contact with those 6 people, it's fine. Those 6. Which 6 are you talking about? This naval headquarters is 550. Before he could finish speaking, Zephyr walked past them with Ain and the others behind him. When passing by Moore, he gave him a slight sideways glance. The hairs on Moore's body stood on end, and he stopped talking immediately. After the group of them passed through completely, they were about to take a breath. He heard Zephyr say in his thick voice, of course it's the 6 other than me. The other 6. What can be said by the former Marine Admiral, Zephyr, the general instructor of the Marine training camp, is naturally in existence on the same level as him. Sengoku, Garp, and 3 more admirals. As long as I don't get in close contact with those 6 people, can I be guaranteed unimpeded in naval headquarters? Moore was surprised that Aizen dared to say such a thing. But soon realized a more alarming problem. Pointing to Zephyr's leaving back with one hand, he heard the sound of sailors stopping and saluting in the distance. Good instructor. Good instructor. Hello, Teacher Zephyr. Moore's entire face was dull, and he stuttered even when he spoke. He too, one, day and night. Aizen admired his surprised expression, smiled and nodded. No, you can even deal with such a big man. Moore seemed to realize that his wording was inappropriate when he was halfway through his words, and quickly changed his terminology. It wasn't because of the shit culture of journalists, it was just that when he said that, he felt a huge shadow behind him. In order not to arouse suspicion, the mouth was changed temporarily. After all, he saw it on the ship that came, and there were not only Marines on the warship this time, but also a Shichibukai. And just when he was thinking that his words should not have revealed any flaws, Moria's sharp voice sounded. My lord, let's go there first. It is good, Aizen said calmly. After Moria got the reply, she also glanced at Moore. With some playfulness in their eyes, they took Perona and they left. He. Moore looked at Moria's pretendingly indifferent back, and was so excited that he couldn't speak for a moment. It's not that a Shichibukai is worth shocking him, but the combination of these things is the most shocking. It took him a while to recover, and he jumped up and down beside Aizen. Although wearing an expensive gentleman's dress, there is no gentleman image. What a big news. Marine's former admiral, the current admiral's teacher, and a Shichibukai. Aizen Vice Admiral, big deal, really big deal. The News King Morgans, whose pseudonym was Moore, couldn't hide his excitement at this moment. Great, the feeling of being up close and personal with big news. Really great. Seeing this, Aizen just chuckled, and said in the ear of Moore, who had already had endless hallucinations, is this enough? Also, what else? Moore's heart was beating strongly. Quick, tell me quickly. Aizen moved his lips slightly and said a name. It was this name that made Moore's hair stand on end, and his excited whole body trembled unconsciously. Really, the red hair still has. Before he could say anything, he saw Aizen put his index finger on his lips. Hush. Seeing this, Moore immediately understood, and nodded desperately with excitement. He didn't doubt Aizen's words. How could someone who could pull Zephyr and Moria into his camp at the same time lie to him? And in this event full of big news, no matter what, he didn't want to miss it. Originally, I wanted to wait until the news was broadcast to make a decision, but now he can't take it anymore. Master Aizen, do you think we can let me write this press release at that time? I, Morgans, have the title of News King in the underground world. No one knows news better than me. Then please, you must do your best. The two talked happily in detail, and then walked out of the port together. It's just that Moore's footsteps are always one position behind Aizen. I don't know if it's because of Moore's current status as a lieutenant junior grade, or as the News King Morgans. Soon, Aizen, who came back, was called to the division office alone. Sengoku looked at the disciple in front of him and sighed. You went out to sea with Zephyr, did you notice anything strange? Strange place. What is the teacher referring to? Aizen asked knowingly, but instead asked about Sengoku. It's a pity that Sengoku is also the resourceful general. At any rate, he doesn't accept this kind of thing at all. He thinks he still understands this disciple. Delicate mind, good at observation. If Zephyr made any small moves, it would definitely not escape his eyes. I'm afraid that he clearly noticed it, but remembered the friendship he had when he was an assistant teacher in the training camp and helped him hide it. Okay, there are no outsiders here and no written reports are needed, so don't come here with me. Sengoku rolled his eyes and put on a look that I know. I'm not unreasonable. If Zephyr problems it's not big, I'm too lazy to pursue it. Hearing this, Aizen was silent for a moment in front of him. Then he said quietly, Teacher Zephyr has changed a bit. What change? Sengoku's eyes became serious for a moment, and he asked in a low tone. Aizen saw this change in his eyes, and felt consciously funny in his heart. No matter how nice he said, once it was possible to touch the fundamental position and interests, the final result would be the same. Teacher, under the rule of the world government and the 5 elders, you have become so boring. He thought this in his heart, but said in his mouth, Teacher Zephyr killed, and many pirates died in his hands. Hearing this, Sengoku let go of a hanging heart. He waved his hand and said relaxedly, it's normal for him to have emotions at this moment. After all, After going through that kind of thing, it's understandable that his temperament has changed drastically. Just clean up a batch of marine trash, then it's fine. Since he has no problems, and with the tacit approval of 5 elders, let him participate in the summit war plan. As a comrade who has fought at sea for most of his life, as a soldier's last wish and glory. Still want to fulfill him. Thinking of this, Sengoku suddenly thought of something. By the way, didn't you receive the task of recruiting the new Shichibukai Edward Weevil? How did you bring Moria back? The smile on Aizen's face remained unchanged, and he still said lightly, I was sent by you to follow Teacher Zephyr, you can't ask me to let Teacher Zephyr's fleet pick him up. Hearing his reason, Sengoku nodded in understanding. Then when I was about to say something more, the phone on the desk rang. Wait until connected. Just one sentence on the phone gave Sengoku a headache, and sighed while resting his head on one hand. It's Garp's family again. The voice on the other end of the phone is not low, you don't need to show your knowledge to hear it. After learning that it was Luffy and his party who beat up the Roswald family according to the original track, Aizen actually laughed out loud. When Sengoku hung up the phone, he looked at him in surprise. Don't you have a good relationship with the Roswald Street family? Why do you look happy when they were beaten up? It has nothing to do with the celestial dragons, it's just a joke. They can play with them if they want to. The rebellious words in the outside world are calmly spoken from Aizen at this moment. Sengoku, who was the marshal of the marine, did not feel angry, and was even relieved by Aizen's attitude. Well, it would be nice if you could think so. But right now, we still need to send people to Sabayati Island to protect the celestial dragons. Since you have a good relationship with the Roswald family, then let you go there. I believe you can also grasp the proportions here. It stands to reason that an admiral should be sent over in this situation, but now that the situation between Marine and the Whitebeard pirates is tense, it is still impossible to dispatch a combat force like Admiral. It happened that Aizen made friends with the beaten bitter masters, the Roswald Saint family. It is also well known in the world government and Marine, and no one would dare to make irresponsible remarks even if he was sent to think about it. After getting the order, Aizen went straight to the port. The warship there had already been prepared as quickly as possible, and as long as he boarded the ship, he could set off immediately. But he still walked over in a leisurely manner. On this short road, he also met Smoker and Tashigi who were summoned back. Aizen Vice Admiral. Tashigi saluted with adoring eyes. Smoker called. Vice Admiral, casually. Ah, long time no see, Smoker, Tashigi. It's only been less than 2 months. Where's the girl next to you? Didn't she go back to the headquarters? I gave her a mission that has always been secret, but I just received a reply a few days ago that it is about to be completed, so I should be able to catch up with the next battle. Smoker wanted to chat a few more words, but someone from the port has already found him. Aizen could only hastily bid farewell to the two and left. Just when he stepped onto the deck, another person came along with him. Tyrant Bear, one of the Shichibukai. Why did Mr. Bartholomew appear here? Although Ming knew his purpose, Aizen still asked with great interest. But facing his question, Shang casually made an excuse. I want to go to Sabayati Island and take your boat. I see, since it's just a boat ride, of course we have no problem, after all Shichibukai is also an ally of the 1.7 world government. The two have their own thoughts and talk about their own things. In the end, the bear was allowed to board the ship. Soon the warship left the port and headed towards Sabayati Island. But at this moment, on the island of Sabayati, their destination, everything was completely messed up. Since Luffy beat up the Roswald Saint family at the auction venue, the Marine base stationed there and the accompanying world government CP members had already surrounded the venue. Listen to the people inside, let go of the adults of celestial dragons, or we will attack. There were a lot of threatening words, but the Marine Rear Admiral who was the leader obviously underestimated how terrifying these people in the auction venue were. In the venue at this time, there were as many as 3 people gathered just for the supernova with a bounty of over 100 million this year. Monkey D. Luffy, Eustace Kid, Trafalgar Law. Not only them, but also the anonymous deputy captain of One Piece. What are they talking about? Celestial dragons. Those scumbags from just now. Luffy spoke without restraint, but it aroused the great interest of several others. Still rude to the nobles of the world's celestial dragons. Worthy of being one of the supernovas. The only one, the captain of the Straw Hat pirate ship with 2 supernovas on board. Young people nowadays are really reckless. Rayleigh took out the flagon from his waist, took a big gulp of the wine and looked at Luffy's eyes with admiration. Uncle, who are you? Rayleigh. Silver Rayleigh. Chapter 72 Crush the supernova and kill Apu. Fear of bears. Advertise here. Rayleigh. Silver Rayleigh. Hearing his name, Kid and Luo in the auction venue looked at the white-haired uncle in shock. Hey, how could such a big man appear in this kind of place? With his looks and the scar on his right eye, he must be right. Both of them immediately recognized Rayleigh's identity, only Luffy looked at them stupidly and asked, do you know each other? This reaction made the 2 supernovas feel strange. You don't know him. Luffy looked carefully at Rayleigh's face after hearing the words, touched his chin and thought for a while, I don't know. Ha ha ha. His answer aroused great interest for Rayleigh, and he couldn't help laughing. I'm just an ordinary coder, and it's normal if I don't know him. Soga. Luffy slapped the palm of his hand and believed it without any doubt. This god-tier behavior also left Kid and Luo deeply speechless. Facing the intimidation from Marine and CP outside the venue, Rayleigh scratched his head and said troubledly, "If Marine knows that I am here, it will be troublesome. I don't want my retirement life to end here." As he spoke, he greeted Luffy and the others, and left before their eyes. At an extremely fast speed, before everyone could react, they had already disappeared in place. Seeing this, Kid also used his ability to control all the metal in the venue to levitate. Screws, chair frames, shackles. Hanging in the air, thinking about the gathering of Kid walking towards the door. "I'm leaving. If you don't have the ability to escape, I won't care about you. You better take care of yourself." With the demon knife on Luo's shoulder, Ghost Cry, not to be outdone, said. Seeing that the two were about to leave, Luffy also followed. "I won't lose." The three of them appeared side by side at the entrance of the meeting place, and soon started a battle with the Marine who was guarding there. The fighting also caused a series of chaos and destruction, and countless civilians fled. At this time, on the Sabayati archipelago, the battle is far from limited to this place. On the other side, more supernovas gathered on the street. Marine fighters also launched an attack on them after seeing through their identities. The bandit Bej, who is a person with strong fruit ability, releases the hidden O6 troops from his body. Shells and gunshots are continuously emitted from his body. Jewelry Bonnie, a woman with a big stomach, also led her men to break through, and used the fruit ability to turn Marine soldiers into older children, making them lose their ability to resist. The rest of the people also showed their magical powers, wishing to leave with their subordinates as soon as possible. After all, the crime of beating Tianlong is too great. Even if they were not at the scene, they also learned the news from the fleeing civilians. "Little ones, head to the port immediately, Marine Admiral is coming soon." Bonnie shouted to the subordinates behind him after finishing the last Marine in front of him. Celestial Dragon's accident, Marine dispatched Admiral is almost everyone's consensus. She's not cocky enough to think she's a match for Marine Admiral. The same goes for other supernovas. And when she looked around, a figure slowly approached in the distance. The man was wearing Marine's cloak of justice, with thick eyes and a gentle smile, without any threat. How could it be him? Also seeing people, there is also Drake, who is known as the fallen Marine Rear Admiral. Whether as an undercover agent or as a defected Marine, he knows this person far better than other pirates. He even said that he himself is one of the admirers of the other party. "Everyone, retreat immediately." While he gave the order, several other supernovas showed completely opposite attitudes. Bej. Did only Vice Admiral come this time? It seems that the relationship between Marine and Whitebeard is quite tense, and Admiral was not even sent. Apu. So many of us are just a Vice Admiral, come here to die. Euroj. Do you want to fight Marine Vice Admiral? It's a good chance to prove yourself. Hawkins. Let me divination the result in advance. Everyone was eager to use Aizen as a whetstone, wanting to test their own strength on him. Aizen glanced around briefly as he approached. Except for Drake, no one has any intention of running away. At this time, a strange noise came from the roof of the opposite upstairs. "Marine, you came here alone with these sailors, do you want us to arrest you?" Babababa. Apsi looked at Aizen and his Marine soldiers. The Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters didn't take him seriously at all. The rest of the people also stared at him as if they were watching a good show. Pirates arresting Marine. This app can really play. Aizen Vice Admiral. The sailors accompanying them were aggrieved and stared at them viciously with the guns in their hands, waiting for Aizen's order to rush forward. Aizen had a panoramic view of everyone's reactions, and raised his hand to push his glasses. "Ah, it seems that I have been underestimated." With one hand on the handle of the knife at his waist, he slowly swung the knife under the watchful eyes of the supernovas. "Ah ba ba ba. Marine, are you angry?" Apu's mouth was endless like a trumpet, obviously extremely confident in his own strength. And other supernovas besides him. Although they also had the idea of trying Vice Admiral's strength, they also deeply understood the weight of Vice Admiral, and when Aizen's hand was on the knife, they became nervous and guarded. Except for Hawkins, standing there against the wall with his tarot cards in his hand, motionless, as if it had nothing to do with him. Apu's voice continued, but Aizen's knife couldn't be stopped. Swing the knife sharply. The speed was beyond everyone's imagination, when none of them could react. The blood spilled out, and even Apu himself didn't reflect it. He looked down at his body, from his left shoulder to his right abdomen. Split into two. The angle of view keeps moving down, and the upper half of the body is sliding down the incision. Plop. His upper body fell from the top of the building, and his lower body took a few seconds. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and when they realized it, great panic filled their bodies and minds. I don't know who shouted. "Run." The supernova pirates who were still arrogant began to flee in all directions. Aizen was indifferent to this, and just walked to Apu's body, and said softly when his consciousness dissipated, "It seems that the sharpness of tongue does not make you stronger." As he spoke, he turned his gaze to the other side. On the wall not far away, Hawkins was still standing there with a calm face. "Captain, run." No matter how his subordinates persuaded him, Hawkins did not move. Not only that, but also asked his subordinates to stay with him. Aren't you running? Aizen walked up to him. Hawkins showed the tarot cards in his hand with a flat face, the hanged man in reversed position. Useless struggle cannot change the arrangement of fate. Destiny. Aizen scoffed. So the result of your divination is that you must die. 70% chance of death, 10% chance of being arrested, and 20% chance. Hawkins stared at Aizen's face, as if he wanted to see something, and then slowly spit out the words after a long while. Surrender. A pirate surrenders to Marine. Even though he had absolute confidence in his divination, he still couldn't help feeling a little weird when he saw the result. And when he spoke his answer and quietly waited for the result. Aizen let out a chuckle. Hey. Then, under Hawkins' shocked gaze, he passed by him, and said without looking back after walking a few meters away, then let you go today. What? Hawkins exclaimed. Turning quickly to look at Aizen's back, other emotions appeared for the first time on his calm face. It wasn't until Aizen walked a long way that the voice came slowly. Fate. It is destiny only when you believe it, and it is not when you don't believe it. Your occupation seems to be inaccurate. Hawkins looked at his back, kept reminiscing about what he said just now, and murmured and repeated. When you don't believe it, it's not. It wasn't until Aizen's figure completely disappeared that he came back to his senses. Sparing Hawkins, Aizen chased after the others. Although the Marine soldiers following him saw the scene where he let Hawkins go, they didn't have any opinions. It's not just an order based on his military rank. It is also due to Aizen's long-standing reputation. Not everyone can persuade pirates to be good. Is there going to be a supernova being persuaded to be good by Aizen Vice Admiral today? They expected this result, although all this is just a casual game for Aizen. Soon he's on the trail of another supernova, the gangster Bej. Captured after just a face-to-face encounter, and without even doing it himself, Kyoka Suigetsu had already liberated Apu by the time he swung his knife. Use Kyoka Suigetsu's ability to control his minions to turn their guns. Surrounded by his own men, Bej could only raise his hands in surrender. Aizen casually threw him to the soldiers around him, and then said, send him to impel down after the end. After he captures Bej, it's only a turn of the corner to meet the bear who disembarked early. Mr. Bezerolio, I didn't expect to see you again so soon. Aizen greeted kindly, and looked at the little girl with pink hair behind him. Who is this? Of course he knew that it was Bear's daughter, Jewelry Bonnie, one of the supernovas. The current appearance of a young child is nothing more than the effect of its fruit ability. It's just unintentional to tear it apart. Vice Admiral, this has nothing to do with you. Shang's voice seemed a little blunt. Aizen didn't think so, just looked at Bonnie with a light smile and said, that's true, but since Mr. Bezerolio likes children, let's play with her for a while, and don't do anything unnecessary. The bear is tall, and the sunlight reflected on the glasses makes it hard to see his eyes clearly. But this does not affect Aizen's judgment. His eyes must be very violent now. This aura that is trying to hide. The bear didn't speak, and Bonnie behind him hugged the bear's leg and hid behind him, only showing a slight eye to look at Aizen. There are still a few supernovas to be caught, so I will take my leave first. Aizen left after saying that. But after turning around, he took a special look at Bonnie and smiled meaningfully. Call. After he left, Bonnie said with a long sigh, that guy must have seen it, otherwise he would. Won't keep staring at me. After speaking, he kicked the bear's heel very unhappy. You're a Shichibukai anyway, how can a vice admiral warn you? Regarding Bonnie's question, Shang was silent for a while and then said this. He's no ordinary vice admiral. Hawkeye challenged him during the Shichibukai meeting. Hawkeye, the world's greatest swordsman. Bonnie was a little shocked, the apple in his hand was hanging on the ground without reacting. Because Shang is Shichibukai, she knows more about Shichibukai's strength than Marine Vice Admiral. Mahawk, known as the #1 in the world, is undoubtedly the strongest among Shichibukai. Such a person issues an invitation to fight a Marine Vice Admiral. Instinctively, she didn't believe it. But the amazing knife that suddenly appeared in his mind, the knife that killed Apu. Maybe he really has that strength. Bonnie whispered. Shang glanced at his daughter and didn't answer. Now he has more important things to do. Save the Straw Hat Luffy crew. Sabayati Island is very dangerous, you have to leave. Still so concise, Shang gave her a slap without waiting for Bonnie's reaction after he finished speaking. Bonnie disappeared in the same place in an instant, and he didn't know where he was sent. After sending away the daughter, Shang also started looking for Luffy and the others, trying to send them all away before Aizen. It's just a coincidence that Luffy and the others met Aizen, who was more knowledgeable first. On Luffy's way back to Thousand Sunny, seeing Aizen, who suddenly appeared and stopped in front of 800, Luffy pointed at him and shouted, "Ah! It's that nasty Marine." Aizen stood sideways, standing in front of them. "Everyone, we meet again." The smile on his face is still as gentle and warm as when we first met, but it is not so beautiful in the eyes of Luffy and others. They immediately entered a combat-ready stance. Zoro drew the knife, Frankie didn't know why but also opened the gunhole on his arm, and even Nami bravely took out the weather stick. Aizen glanced at them, chuckled and said, "It seems that you have matured a lot." Step aside. Luffy was about to walk towards Aizen, but was held back by Rosso beside him. After the Moria incident last time, she saw the latest marine arrest warrant and found many problems in it. Enel, with a bounty of 1.3 billion, is almost certainly Shichibukai Moria just like him. These extremely fierce guys are all Aizen's subordinates. This does not match Aizen's current status. Aizen, what are you planning? Robin stared at Aizen not far away, with strange eyes as if he had never known him before. Aizen didn't speak at first when he heard the words, but just made an invitation gesture. Then he said, "Nothing, I just want to invite everyone to watch a special performance. That's all." His movements are very elegant, and there is a gentle smile on his face. It's just that the more he is like this, the more frightened Robin is. Even remembered when I was a child. Because she has no parents around her, she is always bullied by other children. Another boy pushed him off a tree while playing. The night afterward, the little boy disappeared. The village mobilized many people to look for it, and it took 3 days to find it. When they found it, they were skinny and squatting on a tree, gnawing leaves. When he was rescued, he kept shouting, "There are tigers below, there are tigers below." But everyone searched around and found no trace of the tiger, not even a sign of it. At that time, Robin knew that all this was done by Aizen. When she went to ask, Aizen also had the same expression. With a gentle smile, he said dumbly, "That's all." As now, at that time, Aizen was only 6 years old. Looking at Aizen's smile, Robin couldn't help trembling. But the companions behind her didn't know what she was thinking, they only knew that Aizen must have come to catch them. Just when they want to do it. Boom. A huge black shadow fell from the sky and hit Aizen and Luffy among them. The strong wind pressure rolled up the dust and blew them away. On the contrary, Aizen looked at the center with calm eyes, as if he had expected this to happen. When the dust cleared, the huge figure of the bear emerged from it. Aizen said indifferently, "Mr. Bazerolio, now I am going to arrest the pirates who attacked celestial dragons. What are you blocking me for?" Chapter 73. Don't get in the way, bear. Replacing Shichibukai is a hassle. Advertise here. A strong enemy is coming. Shang didn't answer Aizen's question directly, but looked into the distance. And at the place he was looking at, a figure came towards this side very quickly. After a while, they arrived in front of everyone, and it was Rayleigh who had just left the auction venue not long ago. Ah, Sengoku's disciple. It's amazing to be the vice admiral of the headquarters at such a young age. Rayleigh held the jug in one hand while looking at Aizen behind him. His appearance made Aizen feel normal, but at the same time, there were some surprises. Now he hasn't done anything to Straw Hat Crew yet, did he come out in such a hurry? After glancing back and forth between Rayleigh and Shang, Aizen couldn't help chuckling. Hee, that's how it is. Shang and Rayleigh have already made an appointment, and they are here to act. The idea just came up. Rayleigh took a sip of wine and said, "Brother Vice Admiral, don't break the dream of young people to go to the sea." Aizen looked at Rayleigh, Zanpakuto unsheathed at his waist. If going out to sea to be a pirate is also a dream, then let this break them off here. Even Rayleigh couldn't help sighing with his righteous words and the appearance of justice in his heart. As expected of Sengoku's disciple. Sigh. Rayleigh sighed, "They are my favorite juniors, so can't they give me some face?" Seeing that feelings were useless, the slight deterrence was released. With one hand resting on the saber, it seemed as if he was about to strike at any time. Aizen is also not to be outdone, although he can't fully reveal his strength now, he doesn't mean to stop there. Pulling out Kyoka Suigetsu, he said bluntly, "The retired One Piece doesn't have such a big right wrist. Young people nowadays really don't know how to respect the elderly." Rayleigh sighed while talking with a troubled look. Pulling out the saber from his waist, he finally asked without giving up, "Is it true that we can't discuss it anymore?" Reiatsu on Aizen began to lift, and a blue shimmer emanated from him. The ground under his feet shook slightly. "It's not impossible to discuss. If the seniors are willing to come with me to Impel Down as a guest, I can consider letting them go. Hey, although your proposal is very good, but the old man can't let go of the current retirement life." Rayleigh still spoke slowly, but at the moment his inner vigilance was raised to the peak. What is this mighty coercion? Conqueror's haki. Wrong. Although he didn't know what it was, it didn't affect Rayleigh's importance to him. The Conqueror's haki on his body is also displayed, colliding with Aizen's Reiatsu. The two completely different auras collided together, causing a strong shock around them. A battle between the two seemed imminent. Luffy and the others, who were originally all the protagonists, seemed to have been completely reduced to supporting roles. Feeling the collision of those two pressures, it seemed as if there was a heavy weight pressing down on my body. Like a real aura, what exactly is this? Zoro gritted his teeth and tried his best to maintain a standing posture. Except for him and only Luffy is slightly better. Sanji was in a bit of a panic, and the half of the cigarette in his mouth fell to the ground, but he didn't have time to take care of it. He put his hands on his knees to keep himself from falling down. As for the other people, one counts as one, some of them are still squatting on the ground, almost like Nami is lying on his stomach. Not only that, but also a trance look on his face. Observing this, Rayleigh couldn't help frowning. This is not the effect that ordinary conquerors can have. There is also a little more meaning in the eyes looking at Aizen. It seems that Brother Vice Admiral also has a lot of secrets. If you are interested in knowing, you can give it a try. In front of the deputy captain of the legendary One Piece, Aizen became tough in a rare way. Even at the expense of exposing a little strength. Not only because of curiosity, but also because of the need for a warm-up before the official opening. But at this moment, Shang, who had been silent for a long time, stood up. With his hands outstretched, he posed in a sumo pose. I will help you. What? Hearing Shang's words, Aizen couldn't help but sneered. Mr. Bezerolio, don't do unnecessary things, it will disturb me a lot. Sure enough, they didn't want to let go of Luffy, who beat celestial dragons against the wishes of the world government, but also wanted to save him. Just muddy the water with Rayleigh and take the opportunity to send them away. After making such a decision, Bear ignored Aizen's words. He rushed towards Rayleigh first. The padded palm slapped down on Rayleigh's body, but as expected, he was easily dodged. Rayleigh kicked the bear. The positions of the two were constantly changing during the battle, and they soon came to the side of Straw Hat Crew. Shang raised his hand and was about to slap it again, and it was about to hit Luffy. Luffy! The surrounding partners shouted anxiously. But suddenly a thunderbolt exploded from Shang's body, blasting him flying out. Hado no 63 fiery lightning howl. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice, and it was Aizen standing there. With a knife in one hand and a palm facing here. The Shichibukai meeting is approaching, and if I change people now, it will be difficult for me to explain. Mr. Bezerolio. Aizen said with a smile. Under the sun, the light refracted by those thick glasses made it difficult to see his eyes clearly. It's just that the usual sunny and gentle smile, Jauda's, looks extremely uncoordinated under the sunlight at this moment. It seems to be a beast hiding in the dark under the sun, exuding a terrifying smell. The bear that was blown out put his hands on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Obviously seriously injured. One blow seriously injured Bezerolio Shang, it seems that I still underestimated you. Rayleigh's face was extremely solemn and cold at this moment. Originally, he only thought that Aizen's strength should only be stronger than ordinary Vice Admiral, maybe at the level of alternate Admiral, and on par with Shang. I didn't expect to hurt the bear like this with just one move. Although there is an element of sneak attack in it, it also shows its powerful attack power. That guy Sengoku looks like he's got a great student. Thank you, Senior Liao Zan, the person in the way is gone, so can we start? As you wish. Chapter 74 Rayleigh arrested. It's just a trivial illusion. Advertise here. The battle between Aizen and Rayleigh has been fought for several rounds in the blink of an eye. In every collision of swords and lights, strong wind pressure will burst out and push Luffy and others out of the center of the battle. Luffy pressed the straw hat on top of his head tightly to prevent it from being blown away. The grass under Zoro's feet, who resisted vigorously, has been plowed into 2 marks. So strong, these 2 people are so strong. There was excitement in his voice. In East Blue before, he couldn't see the height of Hawkeye clearly, nor could he comprehend the horror of the world's top swordsman. Now he could see, though only a little bit. Robin watched Aizen's fighting figure from a distance, and a sense of unreality rose in his heart. In her impression, Aizen is stronger than Chungfu and more scheming. It's like being able to hold everything in the palm of your hand. After meeting at Sky Island, she also realized that Aizen should also be very strong. I just didn't expect it to be so strong. After so many years, have you come this far? After a series of battles, the rhythm of the two began to slow down, and Rayleigh slightly turned his head to look over his right shoulder. A cut there had ripped through his clothes and left a sword mark on his body. The blood dyed the skin bright red. Sure enough, I am old, and the young people nowadays are really scary. He looked at Aizen on the opposite side 773 from a distance, while speaking with a relaxed tone, he locked his whole body energy on the other side. Aizen, who was facing him from a distance, looked at the scratches on the back of the sword-wielding hand, and showed a meaningful smile. Even the strongest hunter will ignore the back when he is concentrating on aiming at a prey. What? This guy is old-fashioned when he speaks at such a young age. Just when Rayleigh was surprised, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. Pressure cannon. A palm with a pad was pressed on Rayleigh's back, and a strong impact was sent from the hand, blasting Rayleigh out in an instant. Driven by that impact force, it abruptly broke a red branch in the distance. Mean. The Straw Hat Crew, who watched the whole battle, rebuked Aizen and Shang for their despicability. They didn't know the true identity and purpose of the bear, so when they saw Marine and Shichibukai attack at the same time, or even sneak attack from behind, can't help cursing angrily. As this the Marine, it's the means for the end. How dare AGFJ still use sneak attacks, without the pride and stamina of being a strong man? Shameless. Speaking of which, they are about to launch an attack on Aizen. Even if they knew they were invincible, they couldn't let those who helped them suffer such humiliation. And just when they were cursing and about to shoot, the injured Rayleigh got out from the ruins of the red tree and jumped in front of the crowd to block them. Wait, you are not their opponents, don't make unnecessary sacrifices. Rayleigh's jacket had completely disappeared at this moment, and the ordinary saber in his hand was broken into several pieces, leaving only a hilt in his hand. Puff. Spit out a mouthful of blood. Unprepared, even a strong man like Rayleigh took the bear's pressure gun hard, and it would not be easy. There is also a considerable reason for this, because what Aizen said just now alerted him in advance. Otherwise, he might have difficulty even standing up now. Looking at the bear, Rayleigh's eyes flashed with anger. What does it mean? Obviously he was the one who came to him first to show his identity, hoping that he could act as his partner and save the Straw Hat Boy and the others in the chaos. Now he actually contradicts his promise, and is too busy with himself. Could it be that Marine's target was me from beginning to end? Rayleigh was equally skeptical, but soon found out again. If this is the case, why did Aizen hit Shang so hard just now, just to win his trust? Aizen Vice Admiral, what the hell are you playing? I just want to capture Straw Hat Luffy and send him to impel down, that's all. Rayleigh turned to look at Luffy, wondering why someone like Aizen would be so aggressive in capturing him. Is it because of the celestial dragons that Luffy fights and befriends him? Won't. It's impossible for a guy with your strength to work so hard for the celestial dragons. What exactly do you want? Apparently he was using Aizen's obsession with capturing Luffy as an excuse. Aizen let out a long sigh, as if it was very nerve-wracking. Listen to me carefully, Senior, my purpose is to let him go to impel down. He said repeatedly, and this is indeed true. According to the original track, Luffy will indeed be taken to impel down by Empress Boa Hancock. But that's not necessarily the case, he needs to make sure Luffy gets into impel down, and the best way to do that is to capture him straight into it. Just like in order to ensure that Ace was arrested, he specially arranged for Lafitte. Looking into Aizen's eyes, Rayleigh seemed convinced of this too. Turning to look at the straw hat on Luffy's head, he sighed, can you take me away without catching him? Aizen looked a little surprised. Is it because of a belief in an old friend's legacy? Or what? This touches areas he doesn't understand. But after a little thought, he still agreed. Since Your Excellency Pluton is interested, then I still have to give this face. As he spoke, he controlled the bear to approach, and put the seastone shackles on him. Uncle. Seeing this, the Straw Hats immediately rushed up to stop them, and the other members of the Straw Hat pirate ship also ran over, trying to stop it all. But they are too weak. Aizen controlled the bear, and each of them slapped him, and they lost the ability to resist in an instant. Aizen, don't forget what you promised me. Rayleigh watched them hurt, worried that Aizen would repent and sound a warning. Senior, don't worry, I still have this little credit, this little lesson is just to calm them down. Rayleigh's lips twitched for a while, but finally he didn't say anything more. It's just that the heart is still unwilling. It is more appropriate to say that it is doubts rather than unwillingness. A strong man at his level can accept any situation calmly, but the bear's attack on him still makes him puzzled. Since your target is the Straw Hat Boy, why did the bear attack me? Finally he asked, to which Aizen just chuckled and gestured. Trivial illusion, maybe a little hypnosis. Chapter 75 Sengoku. Who got caught? Rayleigh. Which Rayleigh? Advertise here. Having captured Rayleigh, will Aizen let Luffy go so easily? Of course not. When Luffy was pinned down by the bear and unable to move, Marine soldiers arrived late. They saw that the Straw Hat crew had lost the ability to resist, and when they were about to go up, they saw Rayleigh who had been shackled. Is that the man? Unmistakable, it must be him. One Piece's first officer, Pluton Rayleigh. Aizen Vice Admiral captured Pluton Rayleigh. That's really good. Long live Aizen Vice Admiral. When they saw Rayleigh's appearance clearly, the expressions on the faces of the Marine soldiers ranged from surprise, disbelief, to ecstasy. Although Aizen Vice Admiral's character and charisma are admired by many in the Marines, they are criticized by a small number of other Marines. Especially Marine with its hawkish views. They believe that Aizen's strength is at the bottom of Vice Admiral, and it cannot be compared with those old Vice Admirals at all. After all, the Phantom Fruit ability does not bring direct combat power bonus. But now, Rayleigh's arrest is a shot in the arm for Aizen supporters. Even the Vice Captain of One Piece has been arrested, who will dare to question Aizen's strength in the future. I'm not with him. A seaman apprentice in the crowd muttered softly. The companions around also looked at each other and smiled, feeling proud. Soon, under Aizen's instructions, many sailors swarmed Admiral Rayleigh and was heavily blocked, making him unable to move. I really didn't expect that the rest of my retirement life will be spent in impel down. A wry smile hung on Rayleigh's face. Then looked to Aizen. Now can you make the bears let them go? Certainly, Aizen said calmly, and directly removed Jingu Suewi's control over Shang. In an instant, the bear's consciousness was pulled back to reality. He watched Luffy, who was being pressed by his hand, vomit blood, and immediately let go of it in shock. What happened? Bear murmured to himself. He clearly remembered that he was teaming up with Rayleigh. First, they pretended to help Aizen and seriously injured him, and then took the opportunity to send away all the Straw Hat crew members one by one. The last palm brought Rayleigh and Aizen together to attack. Why is there such a situation? He looked up in Aizen's direction in horror, but only saw Aizen's side face with a little mockery and a smile. Thanks to the assistance of Mr. Basilorio Shang from 7 Warlords of the Sea, Marine successfully captured Pluton Rayleigh, the deputy captain of One Piece. What the hell did you do? Shang, who had always been calm and reticent, had a tremor in his voice this time. Even when being pinned to a laboratory table by Vegapunk, the bear has never shown such fear. A fear that is completely played on the palm of your hand. Of course I'm catching pirates, Mr. Bazerolio. Aizen's words remind Shang of the most important thing, to send Luffy and others away and let them leave this dangerous place. This time, Aizen wasn't right. At least on this point, he is still trustworthy. But when Shang was about to send Luffy away, Aizen kindly sent a message. Straw Hat Luffy, for the sake of our fate, let me tell you another news. At this moment, Luffy lay there weakly, looking up at Aizen with difficulty. Your big brother, Potter Cass D. Ace will be publicly executed in a few days, and is currently being held in Impel Down. As he said that, Aizen glanced at Rayleigh, who was tied up, and continued, it's also where he will be sent soon. What? Luffy's eyes widened and he struggled to get up from the ground. Even the palm that Shang was about to slap stopped and looked at Aizen in disbelief. At this time, he still doesn't know the true identity of Ace. The moment he heard the news, Yin's mind started to run wildly. Is Ace the Fire Fist also the son of the dragon? You just said that Ace will be publicly executed by Marine. Even though Luffy's mind is not bright sometimes, he still knows what public execution means. Just like One Piece. Killed in full view. Is Ace going to be killed? This moment made Luffy feel unreal. He couldn't imagine what would happen if Ace died. After hearing the news, the others looked at Luffy worriedly. That's all for now. Goodbye Straw Hat Luffy. 0. Seeking flowers. Said Aizen smiled in Robin's direction, turned and left. It was so crisp and neat that Shang didn't know whether to drop his raised hand or not. The Marine soldiers saw Aizen turn around and leave, and the lieutenant colonel leading the team immediately chased after him. Aizen Vice Admiral, don't you want to arrest the Straw Hat crew? No, this is the condition I promised Senior Rayleigh. But Celestial Dragons over there. I'll explain to the Roswald Saints, don't worry. Now that Aizen Vice Admiral has said so, the lieutenant colonel naturally has nothing to say. After all, he is treated differently from ordinary people among Celestial Dragons. After Aizen left, the bear didn't bother Luffy and them anymore. He just warned him not to think about going to rescue people, and then left in a hurry. 0. News of Pluton Rayleigh's arrest quickly reached naval headquarters. When the call came into Admiral Sengoku's office, Marine's top brass were planning to deploy to meet Whitebeard. Except for Garp, who went to Impel Down to visit Ace, the 3 admirals, Chief of Staff Crane, and some powerful vice admirals all gathered here. And when Sengoku picked up the phone, there was a series of rapid breathing sounds from the other end. This is Sengoku, what's the matter? Marshal Sengoku, this is the branch of the Sabayati Archipelago, and I am Lieutenant Colonel Highgorn of the branch. Just now, the Aizen Vice Admiral of the headquarters captured Pluton Rayleigh alive, and now apply to escort him to Impel Down. After the other side finished speaking out of breath, Sengoku didn't react for a while. After being stunned for a while, he exclaimed and asked, who are you talking about? Who did Aizen capture alive? Not only him, but other people in the regiment office also focused their attention on him at the moment. Apparently they also heard what was said just now. Just can't believe it's real. If possible, they would prefer to believe that the wrong name was reported on the phone. Hearing Sengoku's inquiry, the other side gasped for a while, then repeated it loudly with a firm and sincere tone. Vice Admiral Aizen Sōsuke of the headquarters captured Luogia, the vice captain of the pirates, alive at 3:26 p.m. today. Silver Rayleigh.